Hey everyone, thanks so much for stopping by. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give it a like and subscribe to the channel. Now, sit back, relax, and enjoy.
Poisoned Love by Pirate King. The Straw Hats meet a mysterious girl who recently ate a devil fruit but seems unaware of its powers. Her past is hidden, her intentions unclear, and her connection to Luffy grows deeper. As the crew tries to uncover the truth, they must decide if she's an ally or a threat.
Chapter 21. Wind. Wind. Kata's eyes slowly fluttered open as her dream of a guild and being a part of an adventure with a fire mage slowly faded away. Kata quickly shut her eyes again, wanting to go back into the warm sleep she was in before. Is there a possibility for you to phrase this better? It sounds a little choppy. She hugged the blankets tightly and cuddled up against something warm and hard. As she tried to go back into the dream world, a light wind continuously brushed past her forehead, keeping her from sleeping. MHMMPH, she groaned, burying her head into the hard warmth in front of her. Wait, Kata's eyes instantly opened. There wasn't anything warm and hard last night. The warm air passed over her forehead again, and Kata froze. Holy shit, she looked up, and saw that she was cuddling up to Raid. Shit. She wanted to get away from him as soon as possible. This was embarrassing. If he woke up to see her cuddling with him, it would be a disaster, and even worse, if anyone else in the crew saw it, they would go berserk. Kata tried to move backwards, feeling uncomfortable when she realized that Raid's arm was casted over her hip, as if to be holding her. She bit her bottom lip as she slowly moved backwards out of his hold. Kata immediately stopped, and looked up to the noise that came out of Raid. He slightly shifted, moving his arm off of her a bit. Kata was glad that nothing too rash happened and stayed still for a few more moments until she was sure he was asleep again. Kata started to move backwards, and soon, his whole arm was off. She held her breath as Raid shifted again, bringing his hands to his side until staying still for the second time since Kata woke up. Kata slowly started to get up on the palms of her hand. Looking around, she realized at how early she had gotten up. Everyone was still in a deep sleep from all the fun they had yesterday. The voice came back into Kata's head. It scared her so much that she almost slipped on her palms and fell onto the floor, but she caught herself. She exhaled slowly as she took a look around once more, everyone still asleep. She needed to find a solitary place alone so she could think this over. Slowly, she started to get up on her feet, hoping that the floor wouldn't creak. Soon, she was up on her own 2 feet, looking over at how everyone was sprawled over each other on the floor with the exception of Raid, Robin and Nami, who had their own bed to sleep in. Kata started to tiptoe towards the door. MHRM, Nami Swan, Kata turned around, Sanji slightly shuffling around before settling down. This was when Kata realized that she was still in the pajamas Raid gave her the night before. It would be freezing if she went outside in them. Damn it, what do I do now? Kata looked around, wondering where she had put her clothes from last night. In the bathroom, no, in the closet. Kata remembered Raid putting the girl's clothes in the closet to replace his. Damn, how am I gonna get over there? It would have been easy because it was on the side of the room where she was standing, but the only problem was that in front of the closet was Luffy. Kata sighed at all the effort she had to go through just for that one morning, and to just think. Gah. Tiptoeing over the wooden floor, she passed Sanji, mumbling about oranges and Nami, and finally got to the closet. Kata had herself up against the wall. She didn't want to wake Luffy because she knew he would cause a ruckus. She reached for the closet door, and opened it just a tiny bit, not wanting to hit Luffy's head. She reached inside, feeling around to find her clothes by their material when she finally found them. She sighed in relief as she took them out, noting how the sliding of her jacket against the door seemed to make the loudest noise in the room. Sanji, I'm hungry, meat, love. As Kata shut the closet door, Luffy was mumbling some stuff from his dream, but what caught her attention was the word love. Kata thought he didn't even know about the word. She looked down at him and saw how adorable he looked when he slept. At that moment, his lips were perched in a slight frown and his face looked adorably confused. He must have dreamed about how much he loved meat. Kata laughed slightly, thinking about how cute Luffy looked when he slept. Now to change. Kata wondered where she could change, not wanting to do it in the open in case someone woke up. She looked to her right and saw an opening. The kitchen. She quickly, but quietly, moved towards the room. It was small, with only a stove, a refrigerator, a sink, a small counter, and some cabinets on the walls. She smiled and quickly changed, hoping no one would wake up as the fabric went against each other creating a sliding noise. Soon, Kata was wearing her warm green jacket and her green pants. She exhaled as she walked outside the small kitchen, tiptoeing across the floor as she made her way to the door. Her hand landed on the doorknob, and as she turned it, she opened the door just a teeny bit. Even at the slightest bit, she could feel the bitter wind hit her face. She knew that this would have to be quick in order to not have everyone wake up freezing. Whoop! Keita slid out the door as quietly and quickly as possible. As soon as she was out, she realized that the sun was still rising. She finally let out a long sigh, glad that she was successful in getting out of the room. Finally, she said as she started to walk. She now had time to enjoy the morning and think. Keita was used to waking up early in the morning. She inhaled the fresh air as she started to walk down the small path. Keita at last had the chance to look around. She hadn't noticed last night, but there were a lot of more houses like raids. She started to walk on the small path that would lead up to the main part of the little village. There was no snow coming down, but just the wind that rustled her hair now and then. Keita thought about the day before, the voice, the hand that was on her shoulder. It wasn't that she had lost power. I was scared, the voice reminded me so much of my father. But no, Keita wouldn't believe that her father would be here. He wouldn't come this far just to kill her. She was already out of his way, what would he want with her now? So, now that father couldn't possibly be the person, who could it be? Who would want to scare me? I only met a couple people on this island. I didn't even notice the person's presence, and from raid, he didn't even know there was a person. Keita had no idea what to say. Maybe it was my imagination after all. Keita shook her head, finalizing that it could only be her imagination and wanted to get out. She sighed as she looked up, seeing that the town was coming into view and some people were walking. She smiled and waved, recognizing some from the snowball fight yesterday. Keita liked the feeling of seeing people she knew and not having to be afraid of them. Hee, she laughed lightly to herself and looked to her left. There was the cafe that Raid had taken her to yesterday. It had all kinds of pastries in it, so it should have some breakfast food in there too. Keita dug her hand into her pocket, hoping that there would be some money, and was glad when she felt the crumpled paper and took it out. She smiled as she went to the door of the cafe and opened it. An aura of sweet smells filling her nostrils. "Hello, miss." Oh, the woman behind the counter recognized her immediately, until Keita looked at her and she stared at Keita for several long moments. Hi," said Keita as casually as she could. "I'm gonna have to get used to this." "Oh, dear me, I'm sorry. I thought you were the girl that came in yesterday." "I am." The woman looked taken aback. "Really? Oh, how did you get your eyes to change color?" "Oh, they just tend to do that a lot. It's a family trait." Keita forced a smile. She hated when she compared herself to her family. "Wow, that's pretty amazing," the woman laughed. "Would you like any breakfast, dear?" asked the woman. "Yes, please." Keita's stomach grumbled. "You have breakfast food here." Keita looked around. "Of course. This is a cafe." The woman smiled widely. "Now, what would you like?" I don't know. Anything that's worth this much." Keita took out half of her money and some stray coins and handed it to the woman. She'd put it on her counter and started to count. "Would you like any drinks, dear?" Keita nodded. "What kind?" Keita was confused. She hadn't had any drinks in a store besides the orange juice and hot chocolate that Sanji gave to her in the mornings. "Do you have orange juice?" asked Keita. "Well, yes, but since this is a winter island, it's more expensive here." "How about some hot chocolate? It'll be a cold day today." The woman nodded to the window and Keita looked outside, seeing that a light snow was coming down. "Sure, that would be great," said Keita, looking at the woman and then down at her money. "Okay, well then, you can get 3 pancakes and that hot chocolate for this amount." "That do you good?" she asked. "Yep, that's great." The woman laughed. "Okay, you go take a seat and I'll bring it to you when it's ready." "Okay, thank you." "Oh, what's your name?" "Mine. It's Carrie, my dear, and yours?" "I'm Keita." "Thank you, Carrie." Keita smiled as she turned around to get a seat near the window. She wanted to look outside while she ate and think about what may happen next. "You're welcome, Keita," said Carrie as Keita sat down. She smiled and took off her jacket, putting it behind the chair when she realized something. "Oh no, the crew might think I've been kidnapped or something, damn it. What should I do?" Keita thought for a moment before finally deciding what to do. She inhaled as she thought of her power, feeling it going through her body until most of it reached her feet. Then, imagining the path that she had just come from, she let the light blue line, starting from her foot, extend to the door, keeping it against the wall so no one would see it. "Damn, I have to practice more." Keita was already getting a bit tired, but she needed to let everyone else know that she's alright. Her eyes were still closed in concentration as she felt her power leak out the door and finally reach outside. Kata's feet were cold, but she was getting used to it by now. With a big urge, Kata sent her power's speed up and made it dash to where the others were. Concentrating on it was so hard, especially the speed, but she hoped that at least one person in the crew would see the line. MHRM, ah. Sanji woke up with a start. Luffy's arm had thrown itself over his face, blinding him momentarily. Ah, damn it Luffy. Sanji threw Luffy's arm back at him, hitting Zoro accidentally before his arm went back to his side. Ah, what the hell? Zoro said groggily as he sat up and stared at the blonde. What the hell was that for? He said annoyed. It wasn't me shithead, Sanji sighed as he slowly got up, not caring if he bumped Luffy a bit. Zoro did the same, rubbing his head. Sanji took a look around. Seeing how small this house was, he couldn't smoke inside. As he started to turn, something caught his eye. OWWAAA. His eyes immediately turned into hearts, his legs spinning as he saw the two women that were still sleeping in bed. They're like sleeping angels, said Sanji happily. Zoro looked and his face turned slightly red, and he hoped Sanji didn't see that. Sanji watched love struck as he saw Nami move a little before starting to slowly wake up. Her eyes fluttered open as did Robin's from Nami's slight movements. Robin started to get up, the blanket sliding slightly off her. Sanji almost fainted at the sight of the girls looking cute. Zoro's face grew redder from embarrassment at seeing Robin get up, her hair a little out of place. Robin-Kwan, would you like some help in getting up? Sanji had immediately gone to her side and was holding out his hand, hoping she would take it. No thank you Sanji-kun. I'm okay, she said while slightly glancing in Zoro's direction. He turned his face the other way and ignored her, Robin lightly laughing at his reaction. Mum, what time is it? Asked Nami. Supa. Everyone was startled by the sound as Frankie woke up with a loud yell. Nami was pissed. I was having a peaceful sleep. Nami slowly came behind him, a demon aura coming from her fist as Frankie cowered backwards. Sorry Nami ah. Frankie now held his pounding head as Nami walked away towards the closet where her clothes were. Sanji, food. Usopp and Chopper had woken up to Frankie's alarm and hopped over to Sanji, when they tripped over Raid and fell on top of Luffy, jolting both of them awake. Luffy jerked up as Usopp and Chopper had gotten off of him, scared that he might attack them. I was having a good dream, Luffy said while rubbing his eyes under his hat. Damn it, you guys wake up loudly. Raid rubbed the back of his head from all the noise that entered his mind at once. Sanji, I'm hungry. Me too. Sanji, Chopper, Usopp, and Luffy were like a broken record playing over and over again. Alright, shut up, you idiots. Yelled Sanji as he kicked all of them in the head. Hey Raid, is it alright if I use your kitchen to make some breakfast? Raid looked up at him while folding up some blankets. Sure, but I don't think I have anything. You may have to go out and get some food, said Raid, shrugging. Well, hey, where's Kata? Luffy asked. Everyone looked around to see that she wasn't among them. Did anyone see her when we woke up? Asked Frankie. Raid, she was sleeping next to you, right? Asked Nami. Everyone looked towards Raid, Luffy feeling warmth rising in him as he looked at Raid. Raid blushed a little. Yay, but I don't remember her getting up, said Raid, his blankets now folded up. She may have gone out for a walk, said Robin, coming out of the bathroom in her normal apparel. The bathroom is yours, Nami-san, said Robin. Oh, thank you, said Nami as she went in with her clothes in her hands. Would you like for me to put your clothes back into your closet? Asked Robin to Raid. Sure, he said as he made his way over and put his blankets in there as well. Well, since one of us will have to go get food, Luffy. Sanji called. Luffy quickly got up and he stood in front of Sanji like a panting dog. Food? He asked. Go out and get some, but look for Kata, okay? And don't eat any food. Sanji handed him some money. Luffy nodded. Okay, I'll find Kata and be right back, said Luffy, zooming out the door. Why didn't you go with him, Sanji? Asked Nami as she put Raid's clothes into his closet. Because then who will take care of you when I'm gone? Asked Sanji, spinning towards Nami. Nami sighed but let it go as a small gust of wind came from the open door. Raid went towards the door, looking after Luffy before closing the door. $%. Luffy sprinted outside, happy that he got to go find Kata instead of anyone else, especially Raid. Wait, why do I not want anyone else to do it? Luffy was confused for a moment and without realizing, tripped and fell head first into the snow. Luffy got up from the snow and saw something in front of him. Ooh, what's that? In front of him was a blue line that was wavering in place. Luffy slowly went up to it and was about to touch it, when it suddenly started to retreat at a fast pace. Huh, oi, wait. Luffy started to chase the blue line, trying to keep up with its speed. He didn't realize it, but more people were coming out and watching a boy in a straw hat and red vest sprint by, chasing a blue line on the ground. Is that boy okay? Asked a woman to her husband. I have no idea, the husband replied. Luffy finally reached the blue line when it suddenly took a sharp left into a small restaurant. Luffy barged in, determined to get the blue line when he saw it retreat back to its owner. Kata was next to the window, her head in her hands, and she seemed to be panting. Luffy, not knowing what was wrong with her, sat in the seat across from her. Luffy crossed his arms and laid his head down, trying to look at Kata through his arms. Kata felt the weight of the table shift a little and looked up to see Luffy looking at her from across the table. Ah! She immediately stood straight in her chair and looked at Luffy, a little shocked at how he came so quickly. Hey Kata, what was that blue line? He asked with a curious look on his face. Oh, well that. Kata just then realized how tired she got after doing that. I felt bad that I kind of just left without telling you guys, so I thought that I would make this line outside so that you guys can follow it. But it turns out that I didn't have enough energy for it, so it just came shooting back to me, she said, wiping her forehead as she got slightly colder from the power that was in her feet, now moving within her body. So, why'd you decide to walk in the early morning? Asked Luffy with wonder. I wanted to think, Kata replied simply. It was nice talking to Luffy. What did you want to think about? Luffy prodded. Stuff, nothing too interesting, said Kata, wanting to get off the subject of her mind. But Kata's always interesting. Kata blushed at Luffy's statement. I'm always interesting, asked Kata, a smile tugging at her lips. Hee, yay. Your eyes are always changing color, and you are interesting to hang out with. Luffy smiled his signature smile, Kata smiling with him. Here you go, dear. Oh, who are you? Asked a woman putting a plate down in front of Kata with a cup full chocolate. But Luffy looked too entranced by the pancakes and hot chocolate to answer. He's Luffy. Do you by any chance have 2 straws and another fork? The woman looked at Kata and then at Luffy again, smiling. Haha, okay, she smiled as she reached into her apron and took out 2 straws and another fork. But be careful, dear. Having hot chocolate with a straw is going to burn your tongue. Kata nodded. Okay, thank you. And with that, the woman that was unknown to Luffy left. Wow, these pancakes look so delicious. Luffy said, drooling. Hee, Luffy, would you like to share with me? Kata held up the fork with a smile. Luffy looked at Kata with starry eyes. Really? Yay. Luffy took the fork, glad that he would be able to feed his stomach. Thank you Kata, said Luffy as he took one whole pancake with his fork and shoved it into his mouth. Kata looked dumbfounded for a moment before laughing. Luffy looked at her, confused. What are you laughing about? Luffy couldn't help but love the smile she had on while she laughed. You haha, you're so cute when you eat, ha ha ha. Luffy smiled wide as he felt a warm feeling fill his face. But, you have to leave at least 1 pancake for me, okay? Said Kata, looking down to see only half a pancake was left. Oh, sorry, Kata, Luffy said, laughing slightly. You should have the rest, I don't. Wait. Oh, never mind. Kata was eating a piece of the half pancake and looked up. What? Kata asked. I still have to buy everyone food for breakfast at Raids, said Luffy, bringing out some crumpled money from his pocket. Whoa, Luffy. Luffy looked up at Kata who seemed shocked as she ate another bite of the pancake. What? Aren't you cold? Luffy looked confused for a moment before realizing how cold he was and started to shiver. It's cold. You're kind of late, said Kata, slightly worried as she laughed lightly. Would you like my jacket? She asked, taking her jacket out from her chair behind. But Luffy shook his head. No, then you'll be cold, he said. Ha ha ha, no Luffy, remember I have my power, Kata said, handing him her coat. Luffy's mind went somewhere for a second before he came back. Oh, are you sure? Said Luffy, still shivering. Yay, it's fine. And here, we can share the hot chocolate, said Kata, breaking the paper covering over the straws and putting them both in the hot chocolate. Really? You're really great, Kata. Said Luffy, smiling. Hee, and after, we can buy that food for the others too, Kata smiled. Yep, Luffy replied happily. Both of them at the same time, then took their straw into their mouths, and drank some hot chocolate. Luffy and Kata looked at each other, and it almost seemed as though everything became a blur. It was as if they could only see each other drinking hot chocolate. Kata's eyes softened as did Luffy's, they didn't realize what was happening. Kata's hand was on the table, and Luffy's was so close to joining hers. Neither of them had stopped drinking the hot chocolate, as they just kept staring at each other. Luffy's hand finally reached Kata's, and instantly they were jolted out of their world, their hands retreating back, the hot chocolate burning their tongues. Said Luffy, his tongue outside his mouth, welcoming the cold air, Kata's tongue doing the same. Hey. Kata tried to laugh but it was hard with her burnt tongue. Hey, I pal Aln Ilya. Hey, I have an idea. Kata looked at him confused as he got up with her jacket on him. Come on, Luffy smiled with his tongue out, making Kata laugh as they left the cafe. The lank Ilu, Clary. Thank you, Carrie, said Kata as she waved and left. Bitter wind immediately chilled Kata to the bone and Luffy stopped for a moment, seeing that Kata was freezing herself, and he started to take off the jacket but Kata just waved it off. He watched as Kata closed her eyes and she concentrated. Out of the corner of Luffy's eyes he saw a slight cover of red go over her hands and, slowly her whole body, before sinking into her. Vlawa, whoa, Luffy said as Kata opened her eyes again and smiled. Low flat. Now what? Asked Kata. Luffy smiled as he looked around until his eyes settled onto what he was looking for. Luffy took Kata's hand and ran towards it. Kata was wondering what he was doing when he suddenly dived headfirst into the snow pile, Kata having to dive in next to him since he had her hand. They stayed like that for a while, their heads in the snow pile before Luffy came out with a huge smile on his face. Hey, he laughed, as Kata pushed herself out of the tightly packed snow, her hair covered in snow. Blah, that was your way to cure our burning tongues? Asked Kata. Hee, yep, and it looked fun too, said Luffy, shaking his head to get the snow off. I should have just cooled it down with my power, sighed Kata, as she lay back in the snow. Luffy was now bouncing around in front of her, wondering what to do when Kata remembered something. Hey Luffy, you still have to get food for the others, remember? Luffy stopped bouncing around. Oh yay, they must be starving by now. Where should we go to get food? Before we go, Luffy, you have to put on the jacket properly. I can't believe you don't feel cold, said Kata. Cold, he said, shivering again. Kata smiled and went over to him. Luffy, you have to zipper up your jacket, you know that right? Kata took the zipper from his jacket and put the right side into the left, slowly sliding it up. Luffy could then feel his face feel warm again. Why am I suddenly warm? Kata's groan brought him back to the present. What? The zipper's stuck, hold on. Kata brought the zipper back down and up only to find it stuck in the same place again. Damn, she tried one more time, a little more force with this one, and was able to bring it up most of the way, not wanting to choke Luffy. Hey, got it, ick. Luffy watched as Kata brought her finger towards her and saw it was bleeding. You need a doctor, said Luffy. No, it's okay, it's not that bad, Kata looked around, wanting to at least cover it with something when Luffy's hand came around her wrist. As soon as she looked at him, her face turned an impossible shade of red. Luffy had taken her cut finger, and put it into her mouth, his hand still on her wrist. Kata stood there, wondering what to do. Her mind had completely shut down, and all she could do was stare at Luffy. She could feel him licking on her wound and sucking on it so the blood would stop. Neither Kata nor Luffy noticed, but horizontal to them was the rest of the crew, staring at them in shock. Sanji was lost for words, and Raid stood there, shocked, yet annoyed. LLLLLUUFFFFFFYYY. Sanji suddenly started to run towards Luffy. Both Kata and Luffy were taken out of their daze to see Sanji running towards them. Luffy took out Kata's hand and let it go just in time for Sanji kicking Luffy. What the hell were you doing to Kata Chwann? He said, fury boiling. Nothing, she was hurt, Sanji, whined Luffy. Wha hurt? Sanji immediately looked to Kata. Did this idiot hurt you? Asked Sanji. No, I just got a cut, said Kata, holding up her hand to see that it wasn't bleeding anymore. Oh, here Kata, I have a band-aid. Even if it isn't bleeding, it may still get infected. Chopper came up to Kata and put a band-aid on her cut. Sanji had made his way over to Luffy and Nami then joined him. Luffy, we were starving, Nami raised her fist up angrily. We told you to just get the food and Kata, come back, not stay here for an hour. Yelled Nami. That was an hour, said Luffy, dumbfounded. Of course it was an hour. Yelled Nami. Nami-san, there is a cafe here, would you like to go and eat? Asked Robin. Nami turned around and smiled. Sure, said Luffy. But I'm hungry too, whined Luffy. Well you should starve like we did, yelled Nami, as she and Robin went into the cafe. Luffy looked up to see a steaming Sanji over him. Why the hell are you wearing Kata Chwann's jacket? Luffy looked down. Ooh, Sanji's mad, giggled Usopp from behind, where everyone else was. Shut up, long nose. You're next. Sanji yelled behind him. Hey, yelled Usopp in annoyance. Kata smiled as Raid came over to her and helped her up. Are you okay? He smiled. Hey, never better. She smiled back. Then, would you like something to eat? Asked Raid, but Kata shook her head. No thanks, I've already eaten. Raid looked at her a bit confused. With who? Myself at first, but then Luffy came and joined me, haha, but if you're hungry, I'll come in with you guys, said Kata. Yay, food, said Chopper as he, Frankie, and Zoro started to walk into the cafe, Raid and Kata following after. Chapter 22, Dresses. Dress. Kata was back in the cafe again, Carrie being kind enough to put tables together for the entire crew that followed her. She watched as they ate happily and Luffy tried stealing some food. Kata was drinking her second hot chocolate as Robin started to talk to her. Kata, are you cold? Asked Robin, enjoying a coffee and French toast. No, I'm using my power to keep me, Kata suddenly shivered. What? Why am I so cold all of a sudden? Well, IW was warm a minute ago, she said, clutching the hot chocolate for warmth and then thinking of her power again before the warmth slowly came again. Ah, I got it back now, I'm okay, Kata said happily, sipping her hot chocolate. Kata, you know there are limits to your power, right? Said Robin, looking at her knowingly. Huh, really? She wondered what her power's limit might be. Yes, and I think yours might time limit-wise, Robin stated. Time limit-wise? Asked Kata. What you have is a specific time limit that you can have your power on for, until you are shot. But, I'm pretty sure I can make it last for over 10 minutes, and I'm not shot either, I just used my power again. I'm pretty sure you have a wider time limit, but since you're a beginner of your power, it'll start off small and the shots won't be so hard. Have you ever gotten tired from using your power? Asked Robin. Kata thought for a moment and then realized how she did get tired when she made that trail over to Raid's house, and not only that, but it started to come back almost as soon as she got there. Yay actually. Damn, it looks like I'm going to have to practice more on that, said Kata as she sighed. I can help you again if you like, said Robin, finishing her toast. That would be great, said Kata. Okay, you guys, I need to tell you some news. Raid said loudly, grabbing the crew's attention. What news? Asked Sanji. The winter ball I've been telling you guys about. It's going to be the day after tomorrow, so if you guys wanted to go, there's still time to buy some clothes, said Raid. Ooh, that sounds cool. I forget, but what is a winter ball? Asked Kata, curiously looking around at the crew. It's a big formal dance, said Nami simply. Really? Kata and Luffy said at the same time. Yay, you usually go with someone and dance around with them and have fun, and the dresses are supposed to look really nice. Said Nami as Sanji's eyes turned into hearts. Oh I can't wait to see all of you ladies in dresses. He said happily. Kata laughed lightly. Does that mean that the guys wear dresses also? Asked Kata, a weird smile on her face as she tried not to laugh. Hell no, said Frankie, I wouldn't wear a dress even if I were paid. Nope. The brave Captain Usopp wouldn't surrender into something as grotesque as wearing a dress, ever. Usopp said proudly. Then, what do you guys wear? Asked Kata. We wear suits, said Sanji with a small smile on his face. Ha ha ha, I wonder how Zoro would look in a suit. Said Luffy, laughing. TCH, was all Zoro said as Luffy laughed. I wonder where I can find one in my size, asked Frankie to himself. You guys will have to go shopping, said Nami. What? All the guys besides Raid and Sanji said at the same time. None of them have gone out shopping before, well they have, but not for anything formal like suits. Are there suit stores here? Asked Chopper innocently. Yay, there are two, I think, but I don't know which one is better. I can show you both though, said Raid. Raid, you're getting one too, right? Asked Kata. I don't know. I remember you saying that you were always the guard. Why don't you actually go this year? Asked Kata with a smile on her face. Robin noticed that Raid was slightly blushing. Okay. Yay. I'll just have to tell them I'm not going to be able to do it this year, so it should be okay, said Raid, smiling wide. Great. So all we need are the clothes, right? Said Kata. Yep, said Raid. I hope they're not too expensive, but let's start soon. I want to see what kind of dresses they have here, and also what kinds of dresses will be for Kata, Nami smiled. You've never worn a dress right? Asked Robin. No. Well this'll be your first time. I'm really excited, said Nami. Nami's always excited when it comes to clothes and money, said Usopp in the corner. What? Yelled Nami from across the table. Usopp fearfully grabbed Chopper, looking at Nami with an apologetic look. Okay, I got the bill, want to meet at the door? Asked Nami as she stood up. I can't wait to see you try on all kinds of. No, Sanji. Nami stopped him from following her, he started to tear. I don't think we should show anyone each other our dresses or suits until the night of the ball. I agree with Nami-san, Robin said getting up, it would be more of a fun surprise. Are you sure? Asked Sanji, slightly pleading. Yes Sanji, we're sure. Nami said. Okay, but at least I'll be able to see you on the beautiful night of the ball. It will be wonderful. I cannot wait for you angels too. Come on, Sanji. Frankie dragged him across the door as Sanji bled hearts. I guess we're not meeting for lunch, huh? Asked Zoro to Robin. I may be able to, she smirked and Zoro smiled. Nope, let's meet outside here for dinner, how's that? Said Nami to the others. What? But then I'll get no food. Whined Luffy. Haha, don't worry Luffy, you'll probably get some food from the guys when lunch comes around, said Kata tapping him on the head. Okay. Luffy smiled towards Kata before she was taken away with some force from Nami. Ready, she said, not really asking Kata. Kata looked slightly scared at Nami's eagerness. Let's go. See you guys later. And with that Nami and Robin went out the door, dragging Kata. Raid, you know where the suit stores are right? Asked Frankie. Yay, he smiled. Come on. And then they left the store, Raid closing the door behind them and then slightly smirking. HMPH, the man smiled through the window as both of the groups left the cafe. Looks like they're getting ready, he said to the girl behind him. Damn it, why are we in here while she gets to have fun, Rin sneered. You should get your fun soon. And how soon is that? Asked Rin. 2 days at the ball, Rin immediately perked up. Really, father? Do I get to get a dress and anything I want for the ball? Asked Rin. Yes, I got you a dressmaker and even have someone you can go with, said the father. Ah, this is great, now I feel much better, said Rin as she lay back into the chair. Tasuki, do you have it out? Asked a pirate who came up to Suki's right. Yes, he wouldn't give up on his offer and he said he would not fail us. A good person, is he not? Ahahaha. The pirate stared at Tasuki, he wasn't used to seeing his captain, no, he was more like his master, laughing like that. Tasuki immediately stopped and looked at the pirate with a glare. The pirate was immediately scared that he might be shot on the spot like he had on the others, now he wanted to get out of there as soon as he could. Is there anything else you would like to add to the plan? He asked hastily. Tasuki sighed with annoyance. No, just have your group ready for that night also. You know where it is, right? Demanded Tasuki. The pirates started to sweat. They didn't know, but they should soon, or else they were all dead. Why yay, we know where it is, Tasuki growled. You idiot. The pirate quivered at his anger. Know where it is tonight and get the outlay or else I'll have all your heads chopped off in an instant. The pirate nodded too many times for his own good as he escaped from the room. Geez father, you don't have to freaking kill him of emotion, said Rin, not at all affected by his outburst before. Tasuki grinded his teeth before he calmed down. Well they should know better, he said as he pushed his hair slightly back. He needed some air. I'll be back, he said as he left the room. Tasuki opened the door and entered the small hallway leading him outside to the back of the small temporary apartment. He had left his coat inside and was wearing a clean white shirt with black pants. As he went outside, the cold bothered him a little, but Tasuki put that problem aside and took a pack of cigarettes from his right chest pocket. With a lighter from his right pocket, he lit it up and inhaled deeply, putting it in between his index and middle finger, and taking it out before exhaling. Tasuki stood outside in the cold, thinking of nothing and everything. He wondered if the plan would work out smoothly or if there were some bumps that he would have to run over to make flat. He sighed annoyed, there was a reason he hired pirates, but it might end up having himself do the work. Fuck, he hated doing the work. There's a reason for the fucking pirates. He took another drag from his cigarette. Tasuki then thought of his wife for a moment but despised it so much. He took a long drag. How much he hated her, he didn't even know why he loved her in the first place. She got in the way of everything, and now, he had to deal with Kata. Tasuki grinded his teeth, he wanted her gone, never wanting to see anything that looked like his wife, reminded him of her, or acting like her ever again. Tasuki realized that he had just had his entire cigarette and took out another, lighting it again. He thought of his company and smiled. It's what got him rich, powerful, and even feared. He didn't need the devil fruit, or to be a marine, all he needed was money and items for the government. Just like that, he has everything. Tasuki smirked as he inhaled the smoke. Now, all he needed was a plan, something that would definitely get that bitch away from him and out of his life. Tasuki took another long drag from his new cigarette, thinking about Keita and who the people were around her all the time, the Straw Hats. Then, an idea came to him. Haha, he slightly laughed at this. How could he have not thought of this earlier? It seemed simple enough, though some alterations would be needed. All he needed were some clothes, a woman, and the blonde cook from the crew. Ahahaha, Tasuki took a long last drag from his cigarette, and then tossed it to the ground, twisting his foot over it before inhaling a breath of fresh air. Time to start, he said to himself as he exhaled and then made his way back inside, passing the pirate he frightened before with an evil smile on his face. In percent and 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 percent. Green is a really good color on you, Keita, said Nami smiling as she looked at her. Keita was wearing a short lime green dress reaching her thighs and looking uncomfortable. Sure, but I don't really feel comfortable. You'll get used to it, waved Nami and looking at herself in the mirror, who was wearing a short bright orange dress. Nami-san, I think this is more formal than those, Robin giggled, and Keita doesn't seem to like that dress. Nami looked at Keita to see her trying to walk, one hand in the air and leaning hard to the side. Hey, I don't think this is my type of dress. Keita smiled tiredly up at Nami as she suddenly lost balance and fell to the ground, Robin catching her before she hit the floor. Ah, thanks Robin, she said as Robin helped her up. You're welcome, said Robin as she looked at her own outfit in the wall mirror. I'm kinda hungry, do any of you wanna find something to eat? Asked Keita, holding her stomach as it growled. Ha ha ha, okay, it seems a good time anyways, said Nami going back into the changing room. Ah, I remember seeing a restaurant across from us, Robin said, facing Keita. Okay, then let's change and head out. Soon all three of them were leaving the Kaylee, the saleswoman looking at them sadly, hoping that they would have bought something as they went out the door. The three girls entered the restaurant and took a seat near the back, each looking at the menu that was already set out in front of them. Hello, what would you like for today? Asked waiter as he came up to their table. Can I have a caprese panini and water? Asked Keita. The waiter nodded and wrote their order down as he looked at the others. I'll have water with a Caesar salad, said Nami. And I'll have water with freshwater salad, smiled Robin. Okay, I'll have those for you right away, said the waiter as he went away. So what are we going to do about the dresses? Asked Keita to Robin and Nami, putting her chin on her hands. I think we can find some more somewhere, don't worry about that, said Nami. But remember they have to be formal, Nami-san, Robin smiled. I know, but formal can be sexy. All three of them laughed as the waiter brought their drinks and settled them down onto the table. Your food will come soon, he said as he smiled at them and then walked away. So is this ball is just a big dance? Asked Keita. I think so, right Robin? Asked Nami. Have you guys ever been to a ball before? Asked Robin to both of them and they shook their heads. I know a little of it, but no details, said Nami. It is a formal dance, started Robin, you go with another person and you dance. Nami and Keita stared at her, waiting for more to come. Is that it? Asked Nami. Yes, that's all, but if all of it goes right, it can be the night of your life, said Robin, smiling. Has it ever been the night of your life? Asked Keita, acting like a child begging for the story. No, but I'm hoping tomorrow tonight will, Robin smiled. Ha ha ha, I think I know who that'll be, said Nami winking at Robin as she giggled. Really? Robin, who is it you're going with? Said Keita wanting to know. You haven't seen them at all or noticed? Asked Nami. I can't think at the moment, so just surprise me there, Keita smiled. Hee, okay, said Robin. Here are your foods, the waiter was suddenly at their table, their food on his tray. Ooh, looks good, said Keita, eyeing her panini as the waiter set it down on the table. Wait, do you have to go with a partner to the ball? Asked Nami as the waiter set down her salad. Well, it is a formal ball and it is more appropriate for a woman to have a partner, isn't that right, waiter-san? Robin asked the waiter. He looked up to Robin and then the other two girls at the table. Well, of course, you are talking about the winter ball, right? He asked politely. Yes, said Robin. Well then, almost every woman that goes to the ball has a date, he said. Almost? Asked Nami. Yes, the women who don't always find someone there, the waiter smiled. See, we'll all get someone, Robin smiled. That seems fun, said Nami. I'm sure you ladies will all find a date before that happens, he said. Ha ha ha, thank you, and I presume you have someone? Asked Nami. In fact, I have that beautiful woman over there. The waiter pointed to a blonde waiter serving another table. She looked up and waved at him, he waved back. Well, I have to go back to work soon. I hope to see you there, said the waiter as he slightly bowed. Well, that was nice, said Keita. Hee, I know, said Nami. Now we have to get a partner, asked Keita, slightly pouting. Yes, but we don't have to, let's wait until they come to us, Nami winked at Keita. Haha, okay. The three of them ate their lunches and were soon outside again, looking for a place to get their dresses. Chapter 23, The Bird and the Worm. The Bird and the Worm. How long does it take to find suits? I'm hungry, Luffy whined. Raid had led the 6 boys to the first suit store. The floor was carpeted with a pale orange color and the walls were light amber. At the moment were Raid, Luffy, Zoro, Sanji and Usopp all waiting for the salesman. We'll eat soon, Luffy. Geez, said Sanji, starting to get annoyed. We just ate an hour and a half ago. But that wasn't enough food. If you don't stop whining you may not get any food at all. Sanji yelled. You, Sanji's mean, Luffy said, pouting. Sanji sighed and then looked at the salesman as he came with his tuxedo. You like this one, sir? The salesman asked, holding out a pure white tuxedo, the inside and collar lined with silk. Sanji looked over it, smiling. Very much. May I try it on? He asked. Sure, the fitting rooms are straight ahead and to your right, the salesman pointed while handing over the tuxedo to Sanji. He then turned to the others as Sanji went towards the fitting room. How about you men, have you found anything you like? Do you have anything small enough for me? The salesman looked down. You can talk, he said curiously. Yay, you don't seem too surprised, said Chopper, confused. The salesman stood there and smiled. Hey, one's got to be ready for anything, right? He said. Hey, Chopper laughed a little nervously at how easy this guy was with him. But this must be your first time seeing something like this, huh, Mori-san? Said Raid, eliciting a laugh from Mori. That is true. Mori looked down to Chopper, smiling. I think I have your size in the child's section, if you don't mind. I don't mind, Chopper said, suddenly feeling happy and at ease. If you could follow me. You gentlemen could also come with me. The dressing rooms are this way, so you can see how the others look. Mori waved at them to follow him as they headed straight then right. Zoro, Luffy, Raid, and Chopper passed 7 dressing rooms, 3 of which were filled with their nakama trying on suits. Ooh, are these it? Asked Chopper, marveling at all the child-sized suits and tuxedos there were. Yep, now, would you like black or white, or perhaps a different color? Chop looked at all he could choose from and then at the 3 men behind him. Guys, what should I choose? He said anxiously. Personally, I think you would look good in black, Raid said, smiling. Chopper looked at Zoro. Black is good. Red, Luffy said, happily looking at the red one. You're just saying that because it's your favorite color, said Zoro. Haha, Mori laughed. I think I'll have black, Chopper said. Mori nodded and picked one off from a rack. Okay, here you go. Try it on and let us see how it looks. Chopper took it happily and hopped to the fitting room. Pants feel weird. Zoro, Raid, Luffy and Mori heard from the fitting room. Frankie, you have to wear pants to a ball, said Raid. Yay, or else you wouldn't be formal and liked much, Mori laughed. But they feel so weird. He whined from his fitting room. Just come out and let us see it, said Raid. They heard Frankie sigh as he shuffled a bit more and then removed the curtains. When Frankie came out, Luffy and Zoro were stunned for a moment. As weird as it may sound, this was the first time they saw Frankie with pants on. Does it look that bad? He said, standing awkwardly. Frankie was wearing a pure black suit with a black buttoned shirt under, a silver tie laced around his neck and over his jacket suit. The finishing touch was the pure black pants that brought the whole outfit together. At the moment Frankie wasn't wearing any shoes. Is it comfortable? Asked Mori, going up to him and holding his arm up to measure the length. It's comfortable, it's just weird, said Frankie. Haha, well, if it's comfortable, then you may not even feel it, and you'd only be wearing it for one night, right? Asked Mori. Well, yay, but since we're buying these there's no guess when we are gonna wear them again with Nami around. Frankie rubbed his forehead with his palm. I like it, said Luffy, sitting on top of a counter. Yay, it's not bad, said Raid, smiling. Well, if you say it's not bad then I guess this'll be good. I don't wanna take forever in finding another suit, sighed Frankie. Do you have shoes, Frankie-san? Asked Mori. Frankie was just about to reply when another curtain opened and out came Usopp. Whoa, Usopp, you look good, said Luffy, smiling. Usopp fidgeted his tie a bit. He was wearing a black pinstripe tuxedo with a white shirt under. His tie was silk chocolate brown and he had black pinstripe pants to match his jacket. Spiffy, Raid smiled. Haha, you look like a money maker, Usopp, said Frankie, slightly laughing. What does that mean? Usopp asked. I actually kind of like it, he said, smiling. It does look very good on you, but you can't wear your bandana and you should probably gel your hair. Also, a nice hat would make you look official. Mori turned around and bent his knees to go down and open a small closet that no one noticed before. Inside were a bunch of hats piled on top of each other. Mori looked inside it for a while before reaching in and picking on up. This one would go with your suit. He went over to Usopp and plopped it on his head, over his bandana. You look super Usopp, Frankie said doing his pose. Really? Thanks, I like it, said Luffy. Suddenly the curtain on the other side of Frankie opened and out came Sanji. Frankie's and Usopp's mouths dropped to the ground. Sanji was wearing pure white pants with a pure white shirt, over it was a pure white jacket and a silk gold tie that adorned his neck. So, he slightly adjusted his tie, a cigarette in his mouth not lit. What did you think? He said smirking. Why do you look so good in a suit? Said Usopp, his eyes wide. He wears the same damn thing every day, said Zoro. What was that, Godzilla? Zoro twitched. Godzilla. Oi, oi. Mori went right in between Sanji and Zoro, his hands on their chest as he looked at Zoro dangerously. No fighting in my store. Just the stare was enough to have them both back off. Whoa, that was some tough stare right there, Usopp said, rubbing the back of his head. Sorry, this store is like my life, said Mori, backing up and smiling. Oh, so it's like your treasure, said Luffy, smiling. Yay, said Mori. You should have seen this guy, said Raid, speaking up as he adjusted his headband. When someone tried to steal a suit, he ended up beating the guy and he had to go to the hospital. Whoa, really? Said Luffy, excited. Hey, yeah, but I didn't mean to hurt him that bad. Ooh, who did he beat up? A higher pitched voice came from behind Usopp and Every turned to see Chopper hiding the wrong way behind Usopp's legs. Whoa, nice suit there, Chopper, said Raid, smiling. Ah. Chopper noticed that he was hiding the wrong way and was about to hide again but thought of it as useless. He came out from behind Usopp's leg. Really? I've never worn anything this formal before, he said, feeling the collar of his jacket. But you look good in it, said Luffy, smiling. Ah, it's super, said Frankie, doing his pose once again. Ah, you guys don't have to be like that, bastards. Chopper started to spew out random swear words while doing his happy dance. Luffy, Zoro, Raid, what about you guys? Asked Frankie. Are you guys gonna get suits from here? I'm gonna wait for the next store, and if I can't find any there, I'll come back here, said Raid. Frankie, Chopper, and Usopp looked at Luffy and Zoro, Sanji fumbling with his shirt and not caring. I'll do the same, said Zoro. Me too, said Luffy happily, and then his stomach grumbling. Ah. You guys. I'm hungry, he whined. Sanji sighed. Well, I'm done and want to get this suit. Sanji smiled at Mori. That's great. Just go inside, change, and pay for it at the cash register. This goes for the rest of you also if you would like your suits. Yes, definitely. That'll be great, the three said, going back into the dressing room to change. Finally. I'm so hungry. Luffy whined again. Mori smiled. Well, there are many good restaurants, cafes, etc. here, so enjoy yourself. Mori said as he went down the small hall and turned left to go to the cash register. Is the next store good? Asked Zoro to Raid. Yay, in my mind they're both equal. I just want to check out the other one first though, you know. Variety, Raid smiled. Hey, yay, variety is good, said Zoro, walking down the hall. Soon, everyone followed and Frankie, Chopper, Sanji, and Usopp all purchased their suits and were walking out into the cold street again. Food. Luffy bounded off into a restaurant ready to please his stomach. I just hope he doesn't spend too much money, said Sanji. Raid, isn't there something that sends the suits to your house? Asked Frankie. Yay, so why don't we use it? Asked Usopp. Because we have to wait a little to use it, the pipe is on the other side anyways. So let's eat first, yay. Raid said happily. Frankie, Usopp, and Chopper yelled as they ran into the restaurant. Zoro sighed as he walked a bit faster to catch up. Hey Raid, said someone as they passed the group. Raid smiled uncertainly. Hey, he responded as they kept walking. Sanji looked at the guy, then back at Raid. Who was that guy? Asked Sanji. Hey, just a friend. The tone of Raid's voice bothered Sanji a bit, but then he just let it go and walked into the bustling restaurant that Luffy was in. Tasuki looked in front of him, seeing Raid with the straw hat guys there. Hey, he walked towards them. Hey, he said as casually as he could, passing them without stopping. Hey, he heard Raid reply. As he walked away, he heard some random mumbling from them. Tasuki snickered as he entered the suit store that the group had just come out of. As he entered through the door, a bell rang and the man who was at the cash register looked up. He was tall and had short cropped black hair. He seemed calm and professional as he smiled towards Tasuki. Hello sir, would you like a suit? Tasuki smiled. Actually yes, I saw the suit that the blonde-haired man was carrying and I was intrigued. May I have a look at it? Yes sir, but is it for the winter ball? Asked Mori. Well yes, what else would it be for? Asked Tasuki. Just wondering, would you be fine if you like it and then there would be someone with the same suit? Asked Mori. Sure, it's just one person, and I bet we won't even see each other, Tasuki laughed. Haha, that's true, okay then, I'll bring the suit right away. Said Mori as he went to the back. Tasuki waited for Mori to leave before a mischievous smile made its way back to his face. Ahahehe, now all I need is a woman and I'm good. Luffy happily rubbed his stomach as the crew, still only consisting of the guys and him, went to the next store. Ah, I'm hungry again. You just ate. All of the guys besides Raid yelled at him. HM. Luffy just pursed his lips as they went into the next store. This is a little smaller than the other one. Yay, this is more like a private store, said Raid. Ooh, that's cool, said Chopper gazing at the ceiling which was light blue. I'm guessing we have to get our suits here then, said Zoro. Well, that would be better, said Raid smiling, Tamaki. Raid yelled. Some shuffling was heard in the back of the store before a man in a light blue suit came out. His smile seemed to fill up the room as he shifted some of his hair to the side and clasped his hands together. Raid, how are you doing? He said happily, coming up to Raid and shaking his hand. I'm good. I've brought some people here and I'd pick out a suit for the ball tomorrow night, can you help us? Of course. You are in a professional suit store you know. Tamaki winked, let me see, only 3 of you need a suit right? The others are already carrying a suit from Mori's. How do you know? Said Chopper amazed. Haha, there's only one other suit store than mine Tamaki looked at Chopper strangely. Ahahaha, oops, forgot about that. I'm Chopper, Chopper said. Oh, well, it's a pleasure to meet you, Chopper, I didn't know that tanukis could talk. I'm not a tanuki. I'm a reindeer. See horns. Chopper pointed to his horns. Oh, Tamaki said putting his hands up in defense though with a smile, then you must be a very smart reindeer huh? I'm not smart dumbass, Chopper said while smiling and doing his happy dance. Tamaki looked a bit confused and then looked at Usopp's and Frankie's laughing for help. Hey, don't worry, he does that all the time, said Usopp. Haha, well, what are all of your names? He said politely. I'm Usopp, said Usopp raising his left hand. Frankie, said Frankie doing his pose. Sanji said searching for something in his jacket pocket. Zoro, said Zoro. Luffy, and I know you two already, so now let's get you guys some suits yes. Tamaki went to the back of the small store, it was more wide than vertical and he looked at some suits. Raid, you and the other guys wait near the fitting rooms okay? Okay, Raid looked at everyone behind him, we have to wait at the fitting rooms, there are some chairs for you guys to sit down to so, let's go. Raid took them the opposite way and quickly found his way to the fitting rooms. Why do we have to wait while he gets them for us? Asked Luffy. Yay, that's a bit weird. In Mori's we got to find it ourselves, said Sanji. That just means we're fancier, scoffed Zoro looking at Sanji. You will never be fancy, said Sanji looking at Raid as he took a smoke out. You can keep it in your mouth, but you can't light it, Raid said. Fine. These are comfy seats, said Usopp sitting down. Yay, I should make something like this on the ship huh? Frankie said. Ooh, make one in my room, said Chopper excited as he sat down on the comfy white chair. If you make the chairs too comfy we will never get out of them Frankie, said Zoro. Ahaha, that's true, Frankie replied. Okay. A happy voice came from behind them and they saw Tamaki coming up to them with 3 different suits in his hands. I found the perfect ones. Already? Asked Zoro. Yay, Tamaki is the best for choosing them for you, you almost never find one that you don't like from him, said Raid smiling. Yay, said Luffy happily. Haha, okay. This one is Zoro's, he said handing one to Zoro, though he didn't get it for a second. You take it Moss Brains, said Sanji. Zoro grimaced. I know Spaghetti Head, Zoro said taking it and going into the fitting rooms. Is Sanji okay? Asked Chopper pointing Sanji out to Usopp and Frankie, he was steaming. I think so, but if he explodes we run, said Usopp. Frankie laughed while Chopper just nodded. Aha, here's your suit Raid, Tamaki said to Raid and handing his over. Thanks Tamaki, Raid made his way into the fitting room with his suit over his right arm. And this one, Luffy, is yours. Tamaki handed out Luffy's suit to Luffy and he took it gingerly. Yay, I have to try it on right, he said excited. No Luffy, you just have to carry it around for the rest of your life, Usopp said sarcastically. Really? No. Usopp, Frankie, Sanji, and Chopper slapped the air. Go and try it on and we'll see if it's good, said Frankie. Okay, said Luffy as he hopped into the fitting room. Didn't he notice the other two going in to change? Asked Tamaki, slightly confused about Luffy. I guess not, said Frankie. You know, you look kind of like Sanji, said Chopper, looking in between the two. Huh, Sanji looked up at Tamaki. Oh wow, you guys actually do, said Usopp, surprised. You guys could be twins, said Frankie. Haha, I get that a lot. In fact, there's a guy who I'm close with that people think we're twins also. Tamaki scratched the back of his head. Oh really, I wonder who the third me is, said Sanji sarcastically. Well, he's supposed to come into this store soon. He had an appointment for a suit, so you may meet him, aha. Suddenly, a curtain opened and out came an embarrassed-looking Zoro. Sanji could help but snicker at seeing Zoro in such an awkward-looking suit. Zoro grimaced. Shut it, love cook. Make me. Zoro ignored this and looked into the mirror. Is this your first time wearing a suit, Zoro? Asked Tamaki. Yay, I usually wear more movable clothes, said Zoro. What the hell does that mean? Asked Frankie. Do you not like the suit? Asked Tamaki, slightly disappointed. Surprisingly, I kind of like it, he said. Usopp, Chopper, Sanji, and Frankie all had a stunned face. What? Nothing, said Chopper and Usopp, looking to the side and pursing their lips. I have to say, that does look good on you, Zoro, said Frankie. Zoro was wearing a pure navy blue jacket and dress pants. Under the jacket was a silk emerald shirt with a silk silver tie. All you have to do is fix your hair a bit and you'd be great, said Tamaki, smiling. As he said this, the second curtain opened and out came Raid. Raid smiled as he adjusted the cuffs of his suit and looked at the mirror in front of him. Nice suit, Raid, Usopp said, clapping his hands once. Hee, thanks Usopp, I haven't worn one of these in a long time. Raid had the headband that used to be around his head gone and his red hair was a bit more pulled back than before. He was wearing a pure white suit jacket and pants with silk golden amber dress shirt and a deeper shade of the color tie to go with it. You look super, Raid, said Frankie, doing his pose. Ahaha, thanks Frankie, Raid said. You do look pristine in that suit, Raid. You should wear them more often, said Tamaki. But then he'll turn into another Sanji, Usopp whispered to Frankie. What did you say? Said Sanji, annoyed. Nothing, Usopp said in defense with his hands raised. Haha, well, I think you look splendid in that suit, Raid, Tamaki said once again. Thanks Tamaki, I like it a lot, said Raid happily when finally the last curtain opened. Luffy came out and everyone's mouths fell. How could he look so good in a suit? Luffy came out as he normally would, with a huge smile and his favorite hat on his head. Do you mind taking the hat off, Luffy? Asked Tamaki politely. Sure, Luffy slid his hat and let it hang off his neck on his back. You look good in a suit, Luffy Aniki, said Frankie, smiling. Really? And Zoro, what I mean, it's not movable, I can move just fine in this, Luffy smiled as Sanji smirked and Zoro grimaced. Looks like Luffy can handle a suit better than you, Zoro, Sanji said. Zoro ignored him. Luffy was wearing a pure black suit jacket and dress pants. The shirt under the jacket was a silk, and dark red with a pure black tie around his neck. This is great on you, Luffy, said Tamaki happily. Thanks. Suddenly a bell rang and everyone looked towards the door, which wasn't too far off since the store was relatively small. A girl with short brown hair came in with a blonde-haired man behind her. Tamaki. She ran up to him and Tamaki opened his arms as she came in for a hug and he spun her around twice. Ah Haruhi, I haven't seen you in a long time, he said as he bent down and gently kissed her, making some of the crew blush for some reason. You ready for tonight? Asked Haruhi. Of course I am. I just have to finish with these customers and then we can start heading out. Are you coming, Fi? Asked Tamaki to the blonde behind Haruhi. Fi stuck his head out. Yes, I am, Tamaki. A shocked gasp came from Frankie, Usopp, and Chopper. Huh. Fi looked at them and smiled, and then looked at the blonde man next to them whose face seemed almost too pale to match the light blue wall behind him. Oh my god, it's like 3 Sanjis, said Chopper aloud. I know. Tamaki, do you mind standing in between Fi and Sanji? Asked Usopp. Tamaki smiled as he went over and stood in between them. Zoro couldn't help but laugh. Fi had a confused face on, yet he covered it with a smile. Tamaki was smiling like he saw a golden chariot, and Sanji's face looked like it lost all life. THTH, there are 3 me's, he stuttered. Shishishishi, well, you aren't totally alike, Luffy laughed. Luffy's right, Fi is a little paler than both Tamaki and Sanji, and Tamaki is a little more, brighter I would say, and Sanji has his fucked up eyebrow. Usopp was cut off as Zoro smirked. Sanji looked at Zoro dangerously. What was that shit brain? Asked Sanji. You want to? No, Sanji and Zoro looked up to Tamaki. You will not fight in here. He looked at them with a sudden serious look in his face. Zoro and Sanji immediately backed down, again. Why are all of you guys so tough about your stores? Said Chopper looking at Tamaki as a smile came across his face again. We just want to not have our stores ruined, he said while laughed lightly. So, would you like to purchase those suits? Asked Tamaki politely. Che, how is he so polite? Haruhi joked to Fi. Hey, just wait until the ball my dear Haruhi. I see you're taking her to the ball with you, said Frankie smiling. Of course, no man goes to the ball without a woman, Tamaki said smiling at him. The crew looking at the weirdly enraged slapped his forehead. Damn, I forgot about that. Without a woman? Asked Frankie. Yes, it's almost mandatory for you to go with someone, Tamaki looked at the wide-eyed crew. You guys didn't know about this? Said Fi stepping up. No, said Frankie raising an eyebrow. Awa, I shall take Nami Swan to the ball with me, said Sanji spinning on one leg with hearts instead of eyes. I knew about it I just forgot. Oops, Raid scratched his cheek. Tamaki sighed. Well, basically a man who is attending the winter ball always has a woman attending with him, and it usually is a lover so that it can be the night of their life. Tamaki spread his hands out wide and inhaled before exhaling. But don't worry, Fi said happily, even if you do not have a date, you can still come. What will, and I assure you, happen is that you will go there and find someone to dance with. They don't have to be a lover but a female companion is nice enough. Zoro sighed. So we don't have to go with a partner, but it's better if we do right. He asked looking at Tamaki and Fi. Yes, Tamaki said, and I will be going with this very lovely lady right here. He stood behind Haruhi and placed his hands on her shoulder as she laughed lightly. Lovely partner? Asked Haruhi. Of course, you are the loveliest woman in the world to me, he said sincerely. Haruhi looked a bit embarrassed but smiled. Hee, Tamaki, your customers need you right now, she laughed. Tamaki flipped his hair as he looked at the crew again. So, will you be making your final purchases now? Asked Tamaki. Sure, I want to take this off anyway, said Zoro as he went back into the fitting room. Luffy, are you good with that suit? Asked Raid smiling. Yep. Luffy smiled as he turned around to go back to change. Raid laughed as he went into his own after. Later the three boys paid for their suits and they all left, waving to Fi, Haruhi, and Tamaki and Usopp yelling about how he hopes to meet them at the ball. Well it was kind of interesting, said Frankie, now we have to get dates to the ball right. Or we just have to meet them there. I'm not gonna find a date. One day when I go back to Kaya, she'll be my date to the ball, Usopp said proudly. Kaya, who's she? Asked Chopper excitedly. Usopp looked surprised. Well, she is the most beautiful woman in the world, that's who she is. Usopp then started to tell stories about her to Chopper and soon, Frankie was listening also. Moss head, you never said anything about not getting a date, so are you? Asked Sanji looking sideways at him. None of your business pin brow, Zoro said, though Sanji saw right through it. You know, if you hurt her, I'll bring hell, said Sanji. You better make sure you don't hurt yours then, Zoro said. Oi Raid, are we bringing our stuff to the pipelines? Asked Frankie holding up his suit. Yay, we'll be there soon, don't tire out now, ha ha ha, Raid laughed as Frankie smiled. Hey, I wonder what I'm gonna do, Luffy said to himself. Raid looked at him curiously. What do you mean? Asked Raid. Well, I've been feeling these weird feelings about someone but, I don't really know what they are. And when Tamaki said that we had to bring a date, they came back to me again, said Luffy curiously looking at the white sky. This was the first time Raid had ever seen Luffy thoughtful looking. What came back to you when he said that? Raid asked, hoping the answer wouldn't be. Kata. What? Kata, she came back to me right when he said that. I wonder if I should ask her, Luffy said now looking straight forward and not noticing Raid. Raid on the other hand, had a mixture of emotions swelling inside him. Luffy likes Kata but, I didn't think he would think of asking her, damn it, I'll have to think about this later. He thought, let's just get to the pipeline and send the stuff back to my house first, then think about the ball later. Sound good to you guys? Asked Raid to everyone. I like it, said Zoro. Me too, everyone said and Raid smiled. Okay, let's go, we're almost there. Chapter 24, Girls' Night Out. Hello everyone, here is chapter 24 of Potioned Love. Phew, I think this chapter is a long one, well according to Microsoft Word. And guess what, some people's favorite character is about to show up, and yes, I know there are some fans of the character, not saying the gender XD, hehe. Don't kill me if it's not edited well, I did it myself XD enjoy. Disclaimer, I do not own One Piece. Girls' night out. Ah, it's getting dark out here, isn't it? Said Keita, looking up into the darkening sky. Ah, it is. Nami-san, do you think we should find a place to stay now? Robin asked, smiling at Nami. Oh yay. Okay, I saw a small hotel we passed earlier in the day, so let's go there. A hotel? Why not just stay at Raid's house? Asked Keita, looking at Nami curiously. Raid's house? Do you not remember how crowded it was in there? Plus, I told them that they can't see us and vice versa. Nami smirked and Keita pouted before nodding. Okay, she sighed. I just hope we can find a dress tomorrow, she said. We should be able to, there are many dress stores here. Robin laughed lightly and Keita smiled. Ooh, is this it? Asked Keita. Yay, it's nothing special. Let's just get a room and then go out to eat. I'm starving after all that shopping, Nami said as she opened the glass door. Inside it was warm and they could feel a heater above them, ruffling Keita's hair a bit. Robin and Nami took off their hats and proceeded to the counter, Keita following them. The ground was wooden yet shined in the lights from overhead. Whoa, so this is what a hotel is like, thought Keita looking around. She looked at the ceiling, somehow the light attracting her until she bumped into Robin. Oh, sorry Robin, she said moving backward and smiling. That's okay, Robin smiled, looks like Nami is having fun getting our room. Keita looked in front of them and saw that Nami was at the counter, Robin and herself a bit away from her. Is she trying to seduce him? Keita chuckled. Hee, yes, it is her way of getting our room at a cheaper price. Suddenly Keita saw Nami point to Robin and her, the man looked at them. Keita smiled, trying not to laugh at what Nami was doing. The man looked at Nami again before sighing and saying something. Nami stood up, her face neutral from the bargain she just got. They watched as the man reached behind him, grabbed a key and handed it over to Nami as she gave him some amount of belly. She then came over, half smiling as she stood in front of them. Well, I got our room, but I didn't get it as low as I wanted, she pouted slightly. It is cheaper than what it was though, right? Said Robin. Nami smiled. Yep, okay, I have our key, do you want to rest a bit or go out again? Said Nami. I just want to leave my jacket in our room, said Keita, tired of carrying it everywhere. And I would like to leave my hat, said Robin. Nami nodded. Okay, we can take a bathroom break also, let's go. Nami led them to and up the stairs. He said the third floor, room 302. The three of them soon stopped at the third landing and looked down the hallways on both sides of them. There, Keita pointed to her right, a plate on the maroon door stating the number 302 in bold numbers. Nami put her key in and opened the door. As they entered the room, Keita felt the floor change from wood to carpet, their footsteps being silenced as they crossed the room. The tiny hallway led to the room, which contained 3 beds, 1 closet, and a dresser with a mirror in front of the beds. Is there a view? Robin went to the other side, curious about the white curtains that laid there, and pushed them aside. Keita's eyebrows rose as she looked out the window. Is it just me, or is there something wrong with this view? Asked Nami, coming next to Robin. Yay, same, said Keita curiously. Hey, you guys don't see it? Asked Robin delightfully. Nami and Keita looked at her confused. It's the dome that's on this side of the town. The image of the trees and the snow forest beyond may seem a bit distorted because of the glass's curve. Robin smiled. Ooh, both Nami and Keita said at the same time. Keita just shrugged as she threw her jacket on the bed next to the window. I call the bed in the middle, said Nami as she dropped her hat and jacket on the covers and walked into the bathroom. Looks like I get this bed, Robin smiled as she went over to the bed on the other side, next to the wall, and took off her hat, scarf, jacket, and then settled down on the bed. Ah, this is a nice, Robin said as she closed her eyes and enjoyed the peacefulness of the night. Keita smiled and sighed as she sat down on her bed and looked out the window, thinking about what the other guys were doing. Did they get their suits? I wonder what they look like. Are they fancy? Does Luffy's? Okay you guys, Keita turned around to see a refreshed Nami come out of the bathroom, ready to go. She took her jacket off her bed and put it on, leaving her hat. Yep, said Keita, getting up and following Nami and Robin out the door. As they exited the hotel, Keita waved at the man behind the counter. Thanks for letting us stay here the night, she said. The man smiled politely and waved back as the glass door closed. It's not as cold as it was earlier, said Keita as she covered herself in her power. That's because you have the red to keep you warm, said Nami, slightly annoyed. Keita laughed. Okay, where should we eat? Asked Keita as they started to walk forward. How about a bar? Asked Nami. We haven't been to one yet and I'm kind of in the mood for beer. That seems fine with me, Keita-san. Asked Robin, looking at Keita. Keita thought for a moment. She hasn't been to a bar in a while. Actually, the only bar she has ever been to is Inari's. I think that's a good idea. Keita concluded that she needed a beer, just for a teaser. The three walked down the road, people passing by and waving to them once in a while. The stars are really nice here, aren't they? Said Robin, looking up. Ooh, they really are. No clouds at all tonight. Hey, just the half dome, said Keita. Haha, the stars are nice, but if I were you, I would watch where you're going rather than looking up. Nami pulled Keita over as a dog almost ran into her. Hey, oops. Aw, sorry about that, yelled a man who ran past them, chasing after the dog. Richie, stop running. He yelled. Keita couldn't help but laugh. So Nami, you know where a bar is? Asked Keita as Nami let go of her. Well, not exactly, but there should be one soon. Just look for a store with bright lights on. Nami smiled. Hey, at least we won't get lost like Zoro would, Keita said, laughing, and Robin joining in too. After 10 minutes of walking, a small building came up, light escaping from its windows and laughter coming from the inside. A sign hanging above said, Twilight Bar. Looks like we found one, said Keita happily. I told you, said Nami as she opened the door and they walked in. It was pretty rowdy inside the bar, mostly men laughing with her at each other and beer glasses or mugs swinging in their hands. Haha, they all look so funny, Keita said, looking at a group who were sticking their tongues out and holding onto a friend to stay up. Let's go to the bar, said Nami as they made their way around the tables to the front. As they went the small distance, Keita took in how the bar looked. The walls were lit with a soft glow from the lights that hung overhead. The tables and chairs were clattered mostly towards the front. The middle was an open space where people would stand and or try to dance, and the back was filled with booths crowded with people hanging over each other. The floor would sometimes creak depending where you stepped, but other than that, it somehow seemed kind of homey. They were now at the bar, not bothering to sit on the stools as the owner came over to them. Hello there, would you gals like anything to drink? He asked in a heavy accent none of them could pinpoint. Yes please, all of us would like to have a beer, said Nami politely, and the owner nodded before reaching out for 3 mugs. And something to eat please, said Keita, smiling. Sure gal, we have the pie if you would like, he said. Okay, that's fine. It wasn't a dinner, but it would be enough to keep her satisfied, she thought. Keita turned to Robin. Robin, you're having a beer. I usually only see you with tea or coffee, said Keita curiously. Robin chuckled. One must have some new stuff once in a while so they don't get sick of the other stuff, right Keita-san? Robin smiled. Hee, yay. Here you go gals. Now if ya need me, just call me. I'm Akuma. He waved with his index and middle finger before going down the bar to help some drunken costumers. Here, Nami picked up her mug and held it up, to us having a girls' night out. Keita and Robin laughed as they clapped theirs with hers and drank up. Here's your pie. One of the waiters put a pie in front of Keita before rushing away to help others. Ooh, I wonder what kind of pie this is, said Keita happily as she cut out a piece of it with the knife that was on top of it. That looks like blueberry rum pie, said Nami quizzically. Have you ever had a rum pie, Keita-san? Asked Robin. No, why is it bad? Asked Keita, the piece of pie in her hand keeping it in midair. Not really, it's a type of alcohol pie, but rum is strong when compared to beer, said Robin. Are you sure you can handle it? Asked Nami with a small glint in her eyes, Keita catching it. Is that a challenge, Nami? Asked Keita, smiling. Hey, do you want to challenge me? Nami smirked. Keita smiled as she put the pie in between them. Bring it. Keita cut the pie into 8 pieces, and as they were about to start the battle, someone tapped Keita on the shoulder. Keita looked behind her, as did Nami and Robin. Hey, Keita, I think it was, do you remember us? Keita looked at the 3 people standing behind her, trying to figure out where she saw their faces before until Robin figured it out. You 2 are from the snow game we played the other day. I don't think we were ever introduced, she said politely. I'm Mika, said the light blue-haired girl. I'm Senna, said the blonde-haired boy on the left, his arm around the other blonde-hair boy. And I'm Eric, said the other blonde, his arm around Sina's neck. Are you guys twins? Asked Nami. Yep, they said happily. Hee, cool, said Keita. How is it going for you guys? Asked Mika. We're good, resting right now from looking for dresses all day long, said Nami, sighing. Oh, you guys are going to the winter ball? Asked Mika, excited. Robin, Nami and Keita nodded. We're too. Maybe we'll see each other there, said Mika. Hee, yay, said Keita, but at the moment she didn't want to think about the ball. Ah Mika, they don't want to think about that now. They're resting from their tiring day, said Senna, smiling. Yay, let's just have a fun time here, said Eric, and then he nudged Senna, and possibly get a date. Save that for you, I already have mine, said Senna, putting his other arm around Mika and bringing her closer. Hee, Senna, you guys are going to the ball together? Asked Keita. Yep, Senna nudged his nose against Mika's. You guys are a cute couple indeed, said Robin, drinking her beer. Hee, thanks. Now all we have to do is get Eric a date. They all looked at Eric, who had let go of Senna and was looking around. How about one of you girls? Would you like to go to the ball with me? Asked Eric. Ahaha, no thanks, we're taken, said Nami immediately. Keita looked curiously at Nami and she winked. Damn, well I better find someone soon, aha. Were you guys going to have a drinking contest? Asked Senna to Keita and Nami. Well, yes and no, it was going to be with this pie and then possibly drinks, said Nami, remembering about her and Keita's contest. Oh yay. Hey, bring it Nami. If you don't mind, can I join? Asked Senna. Me too. I need a couple of drinks, said Eric, coming back to them. Sure, that's fine. Mika? Asked Nami, looking towards her. Okay, I'll give it a shot. Then let's just use drinks for now, the pie will be for later, said Nami as she called Akuma back. Hello gals, looks like you've got more people for ya. Yep, can you bring us 3 more drinks? And keep them coming also? Asked Nami. Sure, you guys gonna have enough money for that? Asked Akuma as he filled up 3 more mugs. It'll be on me, said Eric as he held up his wallet, took out a bunch of belly, and handed it to Akuma. Well, this may be some fine amount of belly here. Okay, here you go. I'll have the waiters keep them coming, said Akuma as he pocketed the money and went to help others. Okay, everyone got their mugs? Asked Nami, and Senna, Eric, and Mika took their beer. Robin, would you like to be referee? She asked, looking at her. Sure, Robin smiled. Yay, said Keita happily. Okay, 1, Robin said as she looked at everyone, 2, 3. The 5 of them then started to gulp down their beers, determined to be the closest to being sober. Percent and 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 percent and. It wasn't 15 minutes until the whole bar was dancing and cheering them on. Mika had gone down and Senna went after her. After 5 more minutes Eric was down and soon the competition was between Nami and Keita. I'm votin' for the short red head. Nah, blue eyes girl gonna win. Red, blue, go red, hell yay blue. Nami and Keita stared at each other as they downed their 14th drink. Robin smiled as some men were talking to her, but she paid more attention to Nami and Keita. They slammed their drinks on the table, looking at each other with a heavy blush of drunkenness on their cheeks. You still going? Asked Nami. Keita wiped her mouth. Yep, sorry gals, but I can't give ya any more beer. That was all the money paid for, said Akuma. Anyways, you had enough for tonight, why don't you try restin' a bit? And don't forget dears, you still have your pie you paid for, said Akuma smiling. No more beer, said Nami, a bit hazed. No up, said Keita, feeling a bit loopy. I challenge you, next time, said Keita as she laughed for no reason and then sat down on a stool, resting her head on the table. Hey, got it, said Nami. Keita felt a bit tired but at the same time didn't and couldn't sleep. She got up, still hazed, and looked at the pie she had gotten earlier. She was still hungry, so Keita decided to take one of the 8 pieces she had cut and eat it. As she was eating it she turned around, seeing Nami and Robin talking to a bunch of people. What looked like Eric on the other side of the room with another girl, and Senna and Mika sitting at a booth. Keita sighed and ate the piece of pie. What was I doing again? As she put the pie into her mouth, someone came up to her and smiled. Hey Keita, said the voice. Keita couldn't see or hear very clearly, but to her, the guy seemed nice enough. He reminded her of someone, but she didn't care. Hey, who are you? She asked, finishing the pie and getting another piece. I was at the game, remember? On the opposite team. Keita looked up, seeing green eyes and shaggy brown hair, when suddenly, her attention was brought to the middle of the bar where people were clapping and dancing, Senna and Mika one of them. Ah, I wish I knew how to dance, said Keita soberly as she finished put down a half-eaten 3rd piece of pie. Hey, you going to the ball tomorrow? Asked the man. Hey, Keita hiccuped. Yep, and I have yet to get a date or dance. She put her head down. Percent and 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 percent and. Ah, that was good. Raid, do you have any more food at your house? Asked Luffy, patting his stomach. Yeah, but those are just snacks, said Raid. That's FWAA. Luffy's mouth was stretched by Sanji's hand. You just ate a huge dinner, Luffy. Don't waste other people's food now, he said before snapping it back. Ow, said Luffy, sad and annoyed there would be no more food. Hey, well I can actually go for a beer now, said Zoro, his breath coming out white in the cold. Well, there is a bar on the way to my house if you guys want to stop there, said Raid to Zoro. That seems pretty good, said Zoro. Would everyone like to go? Asked Raid to the others. Sure, I would love some cola anyways, said Frankie. I'll go. Do bars have cola? Said Usopp. Yay, a bar, said Chopper happily. Food, said Luffy excited. Sanji, asked Raid. I'm fine with it, our clothes are safe at your house, yay. He asked. Yep, they should be in my living room, said Raid smiling. Okay, it's only a few blocks away, let's go. The 7 guys followed Raid down the road, watching as the store's lights were starting to turn off until they saw a small building with light coming out of its windows and the noises reaching outside. Yay, food. Luffy and Chopper rushed to the bar, turning to go in it when Luffy suddenly stopped right in front of it. Chopper stopped, closer to the door, and looked at Luffy, whose eyes were, somehow surprised. Luffy. Chopper moved back to where Luffy was and looked at where Luffy was looking. Inside through the window, Chopper could see Robin's back and Nami talking with her, as well as some other guys crowded around them. And behind them was Kata talking with, Chopper couldn't remember his name at the moment but he looked so familiar. Luffy, for some reason, couldn't move. He wanted to badly, but he wasn't allowed by his brain. He was looking at the guy who was talking with Kata, something burning deep inside him as the man took her hand and spun her around, Kata smiling as he did. Chopper felt Luffy's aura change and looked at him, seeing now how his fists were curled up. Again he looked in and saw Kata dancing around with that guy, looking kind of loopy. Hey Luffy, why did you stop? Asked Zoro as he walked up to him and looked through the window, as did the others. Sanji, Frankie, Usopp, and Raid looked through the window. Now we can't go in there, said Frankie sadly. Why? Asked Chopper. Because Nami said we aren't allowed to see them until we meet them at the ball, remember? Said Usopp. Ooh, Chopper looked down only to see Luffy's fist slightly shaking. TCH, what is Jin doing with Kata? Luffy's head immediately turned to Raid who was looking through the window, seeming slightly pissed. Jin, said Luffy. Oh yay, the guy who Kata got in a fight with at the game, said Usopp looking up. Luffy was automatically reminded of Jin and looked inside again. Damn it, let go of Kata. He thought. He watched as suddenly, they stopped dancing and Kata was leaning slightly backwards, against the bar, and laughing. Jin leaned towards her, smiling as her legs were in between his and he was holding her hands against the table. Kata didn't seem to notice. Oh oi, what does that guy think he is doing? Said Sanji starting to get mad. They watched as Jin said something in Kata's ear and she laughed. Luffy couldn't help it, he started to walk towards the door. No Luffy, we can't go in there remember. Said Usopp holding him back. Jin has to get off her. Said Luffy pissed as Kata laughed some more and he watched as Jin's hands traveled to her waist. Luffy was enraged. No Luffy. Said Chopper helping Usopp. Zoro looked at Luffy before turning to Raid and then noticing something. Is he, holding himself back? Raid's hands were also curled up in fists. It looked like he wanted to sprint in, but couldn't. Zoro looked back into the window, hoping that Robin or Nami would stop Jin. Luffy watched as Jin's hand traveled down her waist before something blocked his view. Now everyone was captivated as they saw Nami and Robin now next to Kata, Jin backing away. Luffy stopped what he was doing. Can anyone hear them? He asked. Chopper and Usopp fell to the ground, exhausted at how much effort they put into just holding Luffy back. Luffy and Raid watched intently what was going on inside. Robin was holding up Kata with her hands as Nami yelled at Jin. Jin was smiling and soon was out of sight before Nami and Robin turned to Kata. Hey, looked like Nami and Robin has it stated Frankie with a small smile. That was a close one, said Chopper wiping his forehead. The 7 of them stood in silence for a moment before Zoro broke it. Looks like we can't have any booze tonight, he said, a bit angry. Oh right, said Usopp, remembering why they came. Raid. Sanji looked to him, curious why he didn't say something for a long time. Raid was slammed back into reality and realized where he was. Oh sorry. Yay, I guess nothing tonight, let's just go to my place then, he said as they started to walk away. The last one to leave after them was Luffy, taking one last, longing look at Kata before following them. Percent. Nami and Robin came out of the bar, holding the drunken Kata in between them. Kata, what's wrong with you? Didn't you notice it was Jin? Asked Nami, lugging her up because Kata couldn't keep her feet steady. Jin, who's that guy? Ahahaha. Robin, do you think Jin might have given her something? Nami asked Robin. No, if you remember she had ordered the rum pie earlier. I saw a couple pieces of it missing, so I'm guessing that's what hit her, said Robin. Soon, she had let go of Keita and so had Nami. Robin sprouted an arm from Nami's right shoulder and her own left, and they held up Keita from her shoulders, keeping her hands in place and holding her kind of lopsided. Keita's footing was unsteady, so sometimes she would trip, but some of Robin's hands would catch her. Well, she better be ready for one hell of a hangover tomorrow, said Nami as they passed by some people who stared at them before shaking their heads and moving forward. Hee hee, yes she will, said Robin. Hee hee hee, what's, hee hee, a hangover? Ooh, what are these arms? Ahahaha, this is like a swing my mother used to always push me on, wee. Keita tried to hurl herself forward, but Robin caught her. Nami looked curiously at Keita. Used to? What do you mean? Then Nami looked at Robin. We don't know much about her past, do we? She asked. Ah, well, the past isn't as important as now, Robin smiled, trying to cover up for Keita. You're right, but still, Nami looked at the happy Keita, her cheeks stained with blush. Keita, what happened to your mother? Keita smiled and looked up at Nami. Hee hee, my past. Nami nodded, and once she did, Keita's smile dropped, her eyes opened wide, her legs bent, and Robin caught her right before she hit the ground. Keita, said Nami as she bent down to Keita. Mother. Nami watched as tears started to come out of Keita's eye. Keita, she said softly. She petted Keita's head and Keita's hands balled up. Damn father, damn it. Suddenly, Keita was out. Keita. Nami shook Keita a bit until Robin stopped her. Robin. Nami looked up to her. She's just out because of all the alcohol she consumed. All she needs is rest now, said Robin as she and Nami helped Keita up. Nami sighed. Phew, that scared me. I wonder what happened to her mother, and her father, said Nami as Robin sprouted an arm from her again. Don't worry about it, it is the past. Nami looked to Robin, who glanced at her and then smiled. Is she hiding something for Keita? She must know something more than I do. Nami thought about this until they reached the hotel and went into their room. Robin placed Keita in her bed and put the covers over her. Robin and Nami took off their jackets, sweater, and pants, so they were just wearing their underwear and a tank top they had bought earlier. As Nami crawled into her bed, she couldn't help but think about what Keita was talking about. Nami-san, are you alright? Robin asked, about to turn off the lights. Oh, yay, I'm okay, just tired, she said as she curled more into the covers. Okay then, good night. Robin turned off the lights and crawled into her bed. Hopefully she won't remember anything when she wakes up tomorrow, thought Robin before sleep took over her. Disclaimer: this story do not belong to me. The author is Poisoned Love by Puritaking 1-inch. Respect to author. Chapter 25, Sparkles. Sparkles. Keita woke up to a horrifying pounding in her head. Ow. She rolled over in her bed and pressed her forehead against the pillow, hoping to push the pounding out. Keita-san, are you awake? Robin walked to the side of her bed. Keita turned over, and Robin tapped her on the shoulder. MHRM, was the answer Keita gave. Robin chuckled. You seem to have a hangover, Keita. Hangover. Keita looked up from her pillow. What's that? She asked. It's when you have too much alcohol and you get the biggest migraine in the world. Nami came out of the bathroom, ruffling her hair in a towel as she heard Keita's question. But I suppose that's what you get for eating that pie, Nami sighed as she let the towel rest around her neck. Pie? What are you guys talking about? Robin stood up and went back to her bed, took some stuff, and went into the bathroom. It's a good thing she doesn't remember well. Last night at the bar, we had some beer and you got a pie, but didn't know that it was rum pie. Do I really have to go through this again? Said Nami, slightly annoyed. Well, seeing how I don't remember, it would be nice. I hope I didn't do anything stupid. Keita chuckled a little as she moved up in her bed and faced Nami more, trying to ignore the pounding in her head as she moved. Nami sighed. You did, now that I think about it. If he hated you so much, why did he come after you? Nami thought to herself as Keita wondered what Nami was talking about. Wait, what? Some guy who hated me tried to hit on me. What the hell happened? Keita pushed her hand against her forehead as it started to hurt again. Hold on, I'll get you something to help with the migraine, and then I'll tell you, Nami sighed as she stood up and went to the small fridge in their room. On top of it lay a coffee maker and some other various things, including a packet that Nami picked up. She took a cup and went into the bathroom, and Keita heard the shower on inside as Nami excused herself for intruding. She then came back out with a glass of water. Here, drink this and then I'll tell you. Nami tore open the packet and dropped 2 small pills into the water, causing it to bubble. Keita didn't care what it was as long as it would help the damn pounding in her head. She drank it, and sighed as she put it on the small table against the headboard. Okay, now tell me what happened, Keita said, and Nami started to tell her. By the time she was done, Keita was deeply frowning and Robin had just come out of the shower. Really? I think I would have remembered that, said Keita, a bit annoyed. Robin looked at Nami and Keita. Did you tell Keita what happened last night? Asked Robin as she got her clothes from the day before. Yep, from start to finish, Nami sighed. Robin looked at Keita's frown as she laid her head back down on the pillow. It seems like Nami didn't talk about what Keita said about her father, but that should be okay, thought Robin as she put her shirt on, shivering from the cold air that hit her skin. Nami-san, Keita-san, don't forget that we have to go dress shopping, said Robin cheerfully. Ow, that's so boring, said Keita, nuzzling her head into the pillow. That would make me feel so much better, said Nami as she smiled and stood up. Come on Keita, once we go out, I bet that headache will vanish. Ugh, said Keita in pain, and Robin chuckled. Let's wait for our hair to dry, Nami-san, and then we should go out. It would be bad if we got a cold for tonight, said Robin as she sat down on her bed and took out a book. Haha, yay, you're right. I couldn't imagine sneezing all over my partner while dancing with him. Keita looked up at Nami's comment. Ooh, Nami, you have a date already. Well, technically no, but, asked Keita, wanting to get more information out of Nami. Didn't we talk about this at the restaurant yesterday with Robin? How about I just surprise you there? Said Nami as she smiled. Okay, said Keita as she again grasped her forehead in pain and set it back down on the pillow. It was about an hour and a half before Nami and Robin's hair both had air dried, and they were all fully dressed, with the exception of Keita, who was lacking a jacket because of her power. As the three walked out of the hotel, someone asked Keita if she needed a jacket, but she said she was fine. They walked aimlessly from store to store, each of them finding a dress but then deciding that it was too short, long, flashy, or revealing. Damn, there are like 10 stores and we've been to 9. I hope the next one has a dress for us, said Keita sadly as her stomach rumbled. Ah, now I'm getting hungry too. Robin laughed. If this one doesn't have any dresses for us, I guess we'll just have to go naked, right Nami-san? Robin said. Of course, she replied. Keita gaped at them. Are you serious? I'm not going naked to a formal ball, yelled Keita, earning some stares from around her. Nami and Robin couldn't help but laugh. Haha, don't worry, we won't. This store will definitely have some dresses for us, no doubt about it, said Nami as they entered the store. It was normal-sized, with multiple racks around, and the walls were filled with an endless amount of dresses. Hello. A cheerful voice came from somewhere in dress land, and a woman with a huge smile came out of a hidden closet. Hi, she said, shaking off some sparkles from her head that most likely came from a dress. How are you doing today? Good, Nami answered for all of them. We're just going to take a look around if you don't mind. The woman, who was supposedly the owner from looking at the tag, nodded happily. That's fine. Just some information on the store. The entire front of the store is all from this town and the back of the store is exported from various places around the Grand Line. And if you would like any help, just ask. My name is Toru. The woman smiled as she put her arm out. Robin, Nami, and Keita all nodded as they proceeded to check out the store. It took them a while, gathering as many dresses as Toru took them and put them in the dressing rooms for them to try on later. A couple more women entered the store, but apparently they had gotten their dresses earlier and just had them altered by Toru. Keita looked at the many dresses, she did not know how to choose them. The ones she had chosen were picked by putting her hand over her eyes and blindly choosing one. Keita sighed as she shuffled over to Robin. Robin. Yes, she asked as she looked at a long navy dress. Hey, can you help me find dresses again? I really have no idea what I'm doing, Keita confessed. Haha, alright. Robin looked around for a bit, her finger on her bottom lip as she held onto her dresses in her other hand. Would you like me to take these too? Toru came up behind them and startled Keita. Robin turned around and smiled. Yes please, she said as Toru took the dresses, smiled, and went to add the garments to the rest of the dresses Robin had. Now, Robin was about to say something when Nami interrupted. Don't think I'm not gonna help, said Nami, appearing behind Keita. Ah, Nami. Keita looked pleadingly at her. Don't pick any really short dresses this time, please. She asked. Nami's eyebrow twitched. Oh, so you don't want me to help you out? Okay, I see how it is. Nami's lips started to fumble. I'll just go, she turned around and put her arm up to her face. I'll go try on my dresses in the fitting room. She was about to go when Keita stopped her. Ah, Nami, no. I don't want you to be alone. Keita felt bad and knew that she had to do this. You can help, just, not too short, okay. Nami immediately turned around with her fist raised and her eyes burning with excitement. Okay, let's find some dresses. Immediately, she started to pick out a dozen dresses, rushing from the back to the front. Keita looked at her as she came up to her at random times and put the dress up against her. While they were doing this, Robin chuckled. Only she knew that Nami's whole crying scene was an act, and Keita had fallen for it. After about 2 hours in the store, the three ladies had purchased their dresses and shoes and were heading to the pipe to send their dresses to their hotel. As they handed their bags over to the man, he asked what room number they were in and under what name they had put themselves to the clerk. Nami answered these questions, and the man wrote them down on a piece of paper, attached the paper to the bag with their dresses in it, and then sent it off in the pipe to their hotel. Want to go eat lunch? Asked Robin as they exited the pipe store. Yes, you have no idea how hungry I am. And let's not go to a bar, said Keita as she laughed uneasily. Haha, like that's gonna happen today, said Nami as she led them to a nearby cafe, which unexpectedly was the one they had visited yesterday. Nami and Robin took off their jackets and hats as they sat down, putting them behind the chair. Hello, weren't you guys here yesterday? Asked the waiter. All of them looked up and smiled. Yes, we were, waiter-san, Robin smiled. He laughed. I forgot what you had yesterday. If you want the same thing, could you repeat them, or would you like to have something different? The waiter looked at all of them. I'm gonna have the same thing, which was Caesar salad, said Nami. Instead of what I had yesterday, I would like to have chicken soup, said Keita. I'll try the Caesar salad too, said Robin. Okay, would you like any drinks? He asked. No thanks, said Nami, as if she was the carrier of all their money. Okay, I'll send your orders in, the waiter said as he was about to leave, but Robin stopped him. Waiter-san, you never told us your name. The waiter turned around and smiled. My name is Ray, he said as he walked to the back of the kitchen. That's a very simple name, said Keita as she picked up a fork. It's probably a nickname, said Nami. They all sat there in silence, each of them thinking about something different. Keita was looking around at other people's tables, eyeing their foods when she noticed something. Everyone was a couple. They were all smiling about something, and once in a while a couple would kiss. She sighed as she realized that Nami, Robin, and herself were the only ones without any guys at their table. I wonder if I'll get anyone, Keita said to herself. What was that? Asked Nami, overhearing her. Oh, nothing, Keita said, a bit embarrassed and relieved that Nami didn't hear it. Robin, on the other hand, smiled. Soon, their food came and they finished it quickly. I think it may be better for us to rest now, said Robin. Really? I'm not that tired, said Keita. When you get to the hotel and into the bed you might be, Robin smiled. Fine, so you're saying that we are going back to the hotel, then? Keita asked. Yay, that's a good idea. We need lots of energy for tonight anyways, said Nami. But dancing shouldn't be that hard, right? Asked Keita as the three of them got up, Nami placing the money owed on the table. Hard? It shouldn't be, unless you don't know how to dance. Asked Nami. Not really, I wasn't ever taught, Keita said, embarrassed. The three of them were now outside and walking back towards the hotel. Nami zipped up her jacket a bit more. Your mother never taught you? Asked Nami curiously. Keita looked to the side, biting her bottom lip. No, Nami-san, I wasn't taught by my mother either, I just taught myself, said Robin, catching Nami's attention. Oh, said Nami, though she felt curious about Keita, especially since the night before when Keita yelled, Father, and then went out. She glanced at Robin, again. She wondered again if Robin was hiding something from her about Keita. If she was, it might be really important. Robin looked over at Nami. It started to snow again, said Keita looking over her shoulder. On the side the dome wasn't covering, snow started to fall to the ground. I hope the room where the ball is not on that side, that'll mean we would have to trudge through the snow. Keita pouted. Nami smiled and then looked ahead, seeing the hotel just ahead. Nami, you were going to ask me something just now, said Robin. Oh, Nami glanced towards Keita, never mind about that, it wasn't important. She smiled as she shrugged it off. She'll find more about Keita later, she didn't want to get her head too full. The three girls reached the hotel and entered it. The hotel manager called their names and told them that the dresses that were sent to them were automatically sent to their room. Robin thanked them and went upstairs, followed by Nami and Keita. Nami opened the door, and Keita closed it. She threw the hotel key onto the table where their dresses were placed neatly. This feels good. Nami took off her coat and hat, and placed them onto the floor next to the bed. I'm taking a nap. She fell onto the bed, and pulled the covers over her as Robin took off her coat and proceeded to do the same thing. You'll feel a lot better after you take a nap, Keita, Robin said to her as Keita stared at Robin and Nami from her bed. She sighed. Okay, but it's a lot harder than it looks to force oneself to sleep, said Keita as she got under the covers. Robin laughed. Keita closed her eyes as she tried to sleep, but it wasn't working well. She turned the other way and saw that both Nami and Robin were already asleep. Whoa, how did they fall asleep so fast? She thought. Keita closed her eyes once more and calmed her senses, trying to think of becoming one with the bed, but thinking that made her laugh, and once again, she was awake. Okay, one last try. Keita turned some more before finding a position that was the most comfortable. She thought of the ball and people dancing. Turn turn spin spin turn turn spin spin twirl catch spin, partner, close, dance, lover, boy, man, dance, Luffy. Without knowing it, Keita had fallen asleep. Percent and 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 percent and. Ah, I want another pizza, said Luffy, rubbing his stomach. You ate the whole thing, yelled Usopp and Sanji. Yay, but that's because it was good, said Luffy. Usopp grunted as Sanji calmed himself enough to not kick Luffy. Haha, Frankie laughed at Usopp's expression. Gah, I wish I had made a medicine for hunger, said Chopper, shaking his head. Oh, you're a doctor, Chopper? Asked Raid. You didn't know. Raid shook his head. This little fella is the best doctor around, said Frankie, picking Chopper up and giving him a nuggie before putting him back down and laughing. I'm not the best doctor around, asshole, said Chopper, dancing. Raid laughed. Does Chopper do that a lot? He asked Frankie. Haha, yep. Oi Raid, what are we supposed to do now? Asked Zoro. You don't know, said Raid, his eyebrows raised. No, was I supposed to? Raid laughed. We still have to get shoes, he said. Ooh, said half of them besides Raid and Sanji. Are you guys seriously retarded? Why do you guys think we came out? Said Sanji, inhaling his cigarette. A walk, said Frankie, scratching his head. Sanji sighed. Haha, it's useless for you guys. It's gonna be quick, here's the store, said Raid, going toward a store labeled, shoes. Simple name, said Usopp. Yep, that's cause all this place has our shoes. They entered and were met with a huge amount of shoes, all different sizes, types, and colors. I never knew there were such things as rainbow-colored shoes, said Chopper, picking up a pair. Well, the seller here is nice, but he doesn't really like to move, so just pick shoes that match with your suit, and then we'll be out of here quick, said Raid. Everyone nodded, and went back to work on finding their shoes. It was hard for some and easy for others, but soon they all had their shoes and were walking towards the pipes. Is picking black shoes really that difficult? Raid asked Frankie. Well, some were more comfortable than others, and one was blacker than another. Ha 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 ha. Raid couldn't help but laugh out loud. Darker than black, huh? Said Raid as he chuckled and then gave his and the others pairs of shoes to the pipe man. Thank you, Raid said as they left the pipe man. You're welcome, he yelled after them. Is it really getting darker already? Said Sanji, looking up towards the sky. I guess so, Raid sighed. I'm kinda tired, said Usopp, lightly yawning. How about we go back to my place and rest, then we can get ready to go to the... Hey, you guys over there. Everyone turned around as they saw a man in a light brown jacket with a brown hat running over to them. Hey, Jim, is there something wrong? Asked Raid, coming up to him. Kind of, we were just wondering if you can help us with one thing really quickly for the Winter Ball building, cause we're putting some pillars up, but the second one is too much for only 3 people. Do you think you guys can help? Jim looked at the people behind Raid. Sure, are you guys okay with it? Raid looked at them. Yay, we've done nothing in the past couple days anyway, said Zoro, sighing. Yay, Luffy yelled excitedly. Why are you excited? Asked Usopp. Because we'll get to see what the building looks like, he said back to Usopp. Oh, yay, Usopp said. Jim smiled. Great, okay, follow me. Jim jogged back from where he came from and the others followed, going just outside the dome before everyone saw 2 guys resting against a huge log. Whoa, this is huge, said Frankie, looking at the size of it. How many guys got the other one? He asked. About 13, they're covering it now, so they can't help with this one. Jim got on the other side of the log. Hey, Tom, Sid, come on, I got some people to help us. The 2 guys sitting on the other end of the log looked up at Jim. We're not stupid, we saw them coming, said the one with light brown hair and a weird accent that Sanji noted. The 2 of them got up. Okay, we need to split it evenly so one doesn't get more pressure than the other side. See how Tom and I are. The light brunette, now known as Sid, nodded his head towards the blonde Tom, who was opposite him. Okay, let's do this, said Luffy as they each split it evenly. Starting from the backside right side was Sid, Frankie, Usopp, Sanji, and Luffy. Across from them was Tom, Chopper, Zoro, Jim, and Raid. Good God, I didn't know that you can turn into something bigger, said Tom in the same accent as Sid as he stared at Chopper, who was now in his heavy point. Hey, sorry if I scared you, Chopper said, smiling as he positioned the log more comfortably on his shoulder. It doesn't matter how anyone looks at the moment, we just have to get the pillar to the building, said Jim, not turning his head around to see Chopper. Raid, do you know where the building is? Asked Jim. Is it in the same place it's always been? Asked Raid. Yep, then I know it, let's go. And then the 10 of them started walking. It was after 20 minutes that Usopp started to complain. This is starting to get heavy, where is this building? It doesn't seem anywhere near the town, he said, looking around. If it was it wouldn't be as exciting, said Raid from the front. Is it far? Asked Sanji. Not really, we're almost there, though. Raid pushed the log through the small space. You okay, Luffy? He asked. Yay, he said. Luffy wondered what he was thinking about. He knew he was daydreaming about something before Raid interrupted. Was it food? Whoa. A large clearing suddenly opened to them and everyone besides Jim, Sid, and Tom marveled at the sight. In front of them was a huge white building, looking like it was made out of ice and snow. It's huge, said Usopp. Hey. Jim was used to it, but still couldn't help smile every time he saw it. On one side of the building, in the front, they could see the pillar that Jim was talking about before. A bunch of men were throwing snow and ice onto it, and then using scalpels against the tree. Why did they need scalpels? Asked Frankie. So they can sculpt the water and snow in there, it's to give it more of a fancy look, said Tom in the back. This is a lot different from last year, Jim. It's marvelous, said Raid. Thanks, said Jim. Okay, you two in the front, you see that little ditch up ahead? Yay, said Luffy and Raid. Put your part of the tree in there and then automatically go to the other side. We need to put this vertical like the other one, said Jim. Like that. How the hell are we supposed to do that? Said Usopp. Hey, it'll be easy Usopp, just make sure you don't get squashed, said Zoro, teasing Usopp. Squashed. Usopp said, high-pitched. Shut up Marimo, if you say that we can't do this right, said Sanji, though Zoro ignored him. Okay, we're here. Raid and Luffy stopped, as did the others behind them. Ready, said Raid. Yay, everyone yelled behind them. 1, 2, 3. Raid and Luffy tilted the log down into the ditch as everyone started to bring their side up. Come on, got it. Raid and Luffy got the tree into the ditch and then stood behind it as the rest of the crew started to push it upright. Don't let it fall now, yelled Tom. As Chopper pushed it too hard, it tipped over a bit, but Raid and Luffy got it just in time and set it straight again. Phew, okay, hold on to it on that side while the others get it at the top. Riley, Jim yelled to the other column. A man with short black hair looked over and ran over with some other men. Everyone was holding the column at the bottom while they watched Riley and some other guys put something around the top of it. Okay, you guys can let go now, Riley said as some other people came from finishing the other column to help with this one. Everyone sighed as they let go of it, and started to walk away. Hey, don't walk away without our thanks. Sid, Tom, and Jim ran over to them. Thanks for the help, haha, we really needed it, said Tom. That's fine. We haven't done anything in a while so it was a good mini workout, said Luffy, smiling. Haha, mini workout, okay. I may see you at the ball tonight, so keep a lookout. Jim patted Raid on the back. Haha, okay, see you tonight then. Raid said as they all left the way they came. You know the way we came from? Asked Usopp. Are you stupid? Our footsteps are still on the ground, said Sanji. Ooh, said Usopp, feeling stupid. For most of the time through the trail, it was unusually quiet, with everyone thinking of the same thing, the winter ball. Soon they were out of the trail and heading back into town. Raid, what time is it? Asked Frankie. Almost 7, he said, checking his watch. What time does that ball start? Asked Chopper. 8, but it's nice to be a little late, he said. So we should go get ready then, said Sanji. Yep, and a little rest may do some good, too. I haven't carried something that heavy in a while. Raid chuckled lightly as they all left towards his house. After about an hour and a half, all the guys had taken a quick shower and were dressed in their full tuxedo outfits. Frankie had used some of Raid's gel and pushed his hair back and so did Usopp, only he used it to keep it more down. Usopp, can you help me out with this? Asked Chopper, trying to put on a bow tie. Sure. Usopp bent down and helped him. I still can't get used to this, said Frankie, walking out awkwardly. Haha, you better for the night though. If you strip, you're gonna be kicked out, said Raid. Yeah, you won't be much of a show anyways, said Sanji, chuckling. What was that, Cook? Sanji just laughed as Frankie swung at him. Hey, seriously, I don't want anything broken, said Raid as he went in between them. Ah, sorry Raid, said Frankie. Okay, should we go now? Said Zoro, getting a little antsy. Why does Zoro want to go so badly? Said Sanji, straightening out his tie in Raid mirror. Actually, we should go now, the girls may already be there, said Raid, standing up. Okay, but won't our shoes get ruined on the way? Asked Usopp. Not really, they'll just get a little wet, and you can dry them off there. Plus, they clear a path so there's not too much snow we would be walking on. Oh, okay, woohoo. We're finally going. Raid opened the door and was about to leave when he looked at Luffy. Are you sure you want to wear that? It doesn't go well with your suit, said Raid, pointing at Luffy's hat. Of course I'm gonna wear this. There's nowhere that I'm not going to wear it, he said, putting his hand over his hat. Haha, okay, just asking. The 7 of them started walking to the ball. It's a good thing it's not too cold tonight, said Zoro. You get cold? Asked Chopper. No, said Zoro. Awa, there are so many people going, said Usopp, looking at the couples everywhere. The ladies are so beautiful, awa. Sanji said with hard eyes, eyeing a woman in a turquoise dress. I told you the entire town goes to this, right? That's why the palace is so big, said Raid. Palace? Asked Luffy and Zoro. Oh yeah, haha. On this night we call it a palace because it's the closest one we can make and think of. Not ONL that, it's lit up and, well, you guys will have to see it for yourselves. They were now walking through the forest, everyone hearing the excitement. From where we were, it didn't look that big, said Frankie. From the front it doesn't, but the inside is huge. There are 2 floors, the first one being the dancing floor, and the second one being a balcony all around the wall so you can look at the dancing down on the first floor, and also for the food. Not only that, but there is a huge ice garden in the back. You can call it kind of like a maze, but it's filled with ice sculptures from the best sculptors around here. Said Raid happily. Oh, I can't wait to see that. Said Frankie. Me too, said Usopp. I can't wait to see the girls there, they must be so beautiful, Uawa. Said Sanji in a daze while walking. Luffy suddenly felt like his stomach was being tickled. It tried to itch it a little, but it seemed like it was inside his stomach. He thought about how the girls looked, but he couldn't because it made his stomach tickle a bit more, but it wasn't a good tickle. Oh, by the way Sanji, no smoking, said Raid. What? He almost yelled. Haha, Zoro laughed. You can't smoke in the palace. It's disrespectful to everyone else, said Raid. I see, I do not want the ladies to think of me as a disrespectful man. They already do, Zoro said to the side. What was that, Marimo? Don't fight, you'll get your suits dirty, said Raid in a bored voice, already used to their fighting. Ooh, I can see the lights ahead, said Luffy, excited. He ran ahead, hoping to get the tickling out of his stomach by the run. Oi, Luffy, said Frankie. Ah, let's go, said Raid as they started to jog after Luffy, trying not to push other people. Whoa. Usopp stopped as they exited the path and now stood in front of the palace. It's amazing, said Frankie. Beautiful, said Sanji. It looks magical, said Chopper, staring up at it. Raid smiled at everyone's reaction to it. I think it is magical, said Luffy, who was standing next to them. The tree columns that were white just 3 hours ago were now carved with swirls around them from the ice and looked to be sparkling gold. Steps that led up to the door sparkled wonderfully as did the walls around the door. Designs were carved into the wall of dancers twirling around and everyone looked at them in awe. The doors were huge and open, you could see a bit of the inside. Ah, it looks so great. Let's go inside, said Luffy happily and was about to run off if it weren't for Zoro grabbing his collar. Aha, yay, let's go inside. They are gonna close these doors soon to keep the cold from coming in, said Raid. They all then followed the line of people into the ballroom. Whoa, they did an amazing job. This is perfect, said Frankie, finishing Usopp's line for him. Haha, yay. The inside of the ballroom had the walls colored gold with large glass windows facing the garden on the other side with colorful paintings. On one side was an orchestra playing a soft tune for the people just coming in. People were already dancing, their hands in each other while one was either on a shoulder or on a waist. Over them was a balcony that outlined the wall, filled with people talking to others and drinking or eating something. Frankie, I'm feeling a little nervous, said Chopper, trying to hide his face. Don't worry, Chopper. It'll be fun, who knows, someone may ask you to dance with them for the whole night. Said Frankie. Really? said Chopper, feeling happier. Definitely. Chopper, don't worry, I can guarantee you that all of you will have at least one partner by the time tonight ends. Said Raid, smiling at him. Yay, said Chopper. I wonder if they are here yet, said Sanji, looking around. I don't see them, said Zoro. I think, Usopp was getting more and more nervous about the amount of people dancing. Hey, you guys, wanna eat? Excuse me. Everyone looked over to a pretty brunette wearing a one-strap brown dress with designs of sparkling swirls going around it. Her hair was up in a bun with sparkles in it that weaved through each other. Me? Asked Usopp, looking at the other than at the girl. She looked to the side shyly before looking back at Usopp. Why yay, would you like to dance? She asked. Usopp froze in an instant, as did Sanji. Me? DD dance W with you? He asked, somewhat estranged. It's fine if you don't want to, said the girl. I'll just go then. She turned around. Sanji immediately went up to Usopp and shook him from behind. Never say no to a beautiful lady, he said, and then he pushed Usopp towards her. Whoa. Usopp caught the girl's shoulder. She stopped and then turned around in surprise as Usopp lifted his hand in defense and looked back at Sanji and the others as he gulped. Actually, I would like to dance, he said. The girl's eyes instantly lit up. Okay, let's go, she said. Usopp started to gain more confidence and held his arm up so she could put her arm around it, and both of them went into the crowd of dancers. Whoa, Usopp got a pretty girl really fast, said Frankie, smiling as he watched them start to dance. TCH, whatever. I'm gonna go look for the girls, said Sanji as he started to go through the crowd of people. I'm gonna go get a drink, said Zoro, heading to the stairs that lead to the balcony. Wait, we're coming too, said Frankie and Chopper as they followed him. Luffy looked around, wondering what he should do when he saw something red and juicy on the balcony. Food, he yelled before running up the stairs to the man who was serving it. Raid sighed and looked around the crowd of people with his hands in his pockets. His eyes caught another person's eyes, but ripped his own away from them. Tonight he wouldn't know what to do. Percent and 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 percent and. Crap. Nami woke up and looked at the watch next to her bed. Kata slowly woke up from her sleep as she heard Nami curse several more times. What's wrong? It's almost 9, Nami said as Kata heard her close the door to the bathroom. 9? What's that supposed to mean? Asked Kata. Oh no, said Robin. Kata turned around and looked at the other side of the room. What do you mean, oh no? Did we miss something? She asked, getting up on her bed. Yes, the ball started almost an hour ago. Seriously, said Kata, jumping out of her bed. Damn it, we better get there fast, said Kata as she ran over to her dress. And we better get ready fast, said Nami, coming out of the bathroom. I'll do your hair, she said. What? Chapter 26, Dance on a Flame. Dance on a flame. Oh god, oh god, oh god. I'm gonna fall off. Kata yelled as she started to fall, but was caught by Robin just in time. Haha, I wouldn't have known that you didn't know how to walk in high heels, she said. Well, you guys made it look so easy, Kata said. When you tried them on, didn't you have trouble? Asked Nami. No, but then again, I was holding onto the wall, Kata said, looking embarrassed. Nami sighed. Well, hopefully you will get used to them by the time we get there, otherwise you're screwed. Kata nodded as she continued to take wobbly steps. Thanks again for doing my hair, Nami. I've never had it done like this before, Kata said, smiling to Nami. No problem. All you needed was a blowdryer and a brush anyways, she giggled lightly to herself as the three of them then entered a path. Geez, how far away is this place? Asked Nami, pulling the light jacket she had around her tighter. They said it was somewhere where you can't see it from town, but close enough to walk to, said Robin. That makes no sense. It should be closer to the village, but it feels like we've walked a marathon, Kata said as she stumbled a bit. Yay, but as far as I can see there's nothing. Wait, I see some shining lights, said Nami. Yay. Kata tried to run but ended up falling, and once again, Robin was ready for her. I think it's better if we walk there to not ruin our dresses or ourselves, Robin said, giggling. Yay, Kata said as they proceeded to walk towards the building. Zoro looked around, wondering if Robin and the other two were there yet, drinking a small bit of wine. He wasn't a big fan of wine, but they had no beer, so that was his only option besides water and juice. Hey Zoro. Zoro looked a bit surprised as he saw Raid appear right next to him. Hey, Raid, he said. You waiting for someone? Raid asked. Zoro looked dumbfounded for a moment, thinking that Raid knew, but calmed himself. Just for the girls. None of the locals interest you. You have been getting many looks, by the way. Zoro then looked around and realized how many girls were staring at him. He sighed. Nope, none of them are interesting, said Zoro. But one of the girls are, Raid said more as a statement than a question. Zoro didn't know what to answer and put his cup down on the table behind him as he saw the front doors about to close. Ah, Raid, did they come in yet? Asked Zoro. I don't think so, but I wasn't watching the doors the entire time. Damn, they have to come before the doors close. Luffy looked down from upper floor, leaning over the railing and watched the doors start to close, feeling upset that Sanji had forbade him from going near the food table. He looked enviously at a girl in black dress with a red lace corset as she passed with a plate full of crackers with cheese and meat. Luffy was about to reach for the plate when he noticed something in the corner of his eye. He looked back towards the door and noticed that they had stopped moving. I wonder what's going on down there. Luffy looked closer and his eyes widened. Ah, they are finally here. He heard Sanji swirl next to him and awe at them. But that didn't matter, because as soon as he saw her, he couldn't take his eyes off of her beauty. Zoro and Raid made their way through the crowd of people to the doors where they just saw the girls come in. Zoro, they heard Robin say as she saw them. She was in a long, low-cut, backless, dark purple silk halter dress that hugged her hips, but flared out on the bottom to the floor. The dress was embroidered with gold designs that glistened in the light. She wore gold heels and had many gold and purple bangles on her arms. Her long black hair was pulled up in an elegant knot on the top of her head, held back with a gold barrette. Sanji took Luffy by his collar and dragged him down the stairs. Luffy didn't even notice, his eyes were fixed on Kata. Nami Swan, Sanji yelled as he descended the stairs. The girls looked over towards them and smiled. Hey guys, Kata said as the two boys stopped in front of them. It's a good thing you guys came before the doors closed, said Raid smiling at them. We wanted to be fashionably late, of course, Nami laughed. And it was hard to walk here, Kata said looking down at her feet. You look great Kata, said Raid looking at her. Kata was wearing a long, spaghetti-strapped, sweetheart top, midnight blue dress with a slit that reached mid-thigh on her right. The dress was bedazzled with hundreds of silvery crystals so that it looked like the night sky. The back of the dress was backless, except for two straps crossing each other. Both the spaghetti straps and the straps in the back were covered with crystals, making her twinkle in the lights. She wore glittery, silver strappy heels and wore a simple silver necklace with a dark blue teardrop gem and a matching ring. Her red hair was pulled half up, by a silver and blue crystal-studded butterfly clip leaving her bangs in the front on either side. Her hair was full of romantic waves that fell down her back. Thank you, she said slightly blushing. You all look so wonderful tonight. Especially you Nami Swan, said Sanji going up to Nami and lightly taking her hand before kissing it. Nami's dress was a light pink, tube-top dress that in the front went up to her knees, but went down to the floor in the back, with ripples at the ends. She wore white lace-up heels and a beautiful pink gemmed necklace and matching chandelier pink earrings. Her hair was flared out at the ends with her bangs on the right side with a pink flower tucked in holding back the left side of her hair. Kata turned around, feeling someone staring at her and saw Luffy looking dazed at her. Kata felt her cheeks heat up at how he was looking at her. She shifted a little to the right, and his eyes followed her every move. Luffy. She slowly went up to him, trying to calm herself as she did. MHRMR. Kata looked dumbfounded at Luffy, trying to figure out what he said. What was that? She asked smiling at him. Kata. Kata jumped a bit at Luffy's slight burst. Haha, yay. Did you think I was someone else? She laughed lightly. Luffy laughed a little while scratching the back of his head, he was getting a little warm in his cheeks too. You look really nice in that dress Kata, said Luffy looking to the side and blushing. Thank you, she said also looking to the side and blushing. Where are Usopp, Chopper, and Frankie? Asked Nami as Sanji put one arm around her waist. I think they are eating, or maybe they found someone to dance with, said Raid smiling. That's great, said Kata happy. She then looked around and saw how many people were there, and how many were dancing. Whoa, it's so cool in here, she said looking up to the second floor. Robin we have, she trailed off as she saw Robin and Zoro walking together into the crowd of people dancing. Nami. Kata turned the other way to talk to her but saw that she had done the same with Sanji. Kata sighed wondering what she should do when a change of music hit her ears. The sound of a fast guitar came on and Kata watched as some partners came off the dance floor, but eager ones dashed to it, getting in position with their partner. What kind of dance is this? Asked Kata fascinated as the couples that went on the floor and got ready. How about I show you? Asked Raid, reaching his hand out towards Kata. Kata thought for a moment. I don't really know how to dance, she said uncomfortably. That's okay, Just follow me, he said with a confident smile. Keita looked at Raid's hand for a moment. A dance won't hurt, Keita thought to herself as she took Raid's hand and they proceeded to the dance floor. As they did, Keita did a quick look at Luffy before going into the crowd. Luffy watched as Keita took Raid's hand and go into the crowd. She glanced back at him before she was swallowed up by the moving crowd. Luffy didn't know what to do. Should he go after her? Or should he stay here and watch? Soon the dance floor was cleared and only about 10 couples were on the floor, including Nami and Sanji and Raid and Keita. A crowd was around them, all looking excitedly into the middle. Luffy wondered why people were acting this way when he started to feel his body twitch. He started moving to the front of the crowd without his own will. Wait, what's going on? Soon Luffy was in front of the crowd. Hello ladies and gentlemen, said the announcer from the stage. People in the crowd cheered and Luffy looked at him. He was in front of the musicians behind him and the singers was next to him. What's going on? Is this the reason of the people on the dance floor in the crowd? It's time for the annual tango. The guy yelled next to him. The people in the crowd cheered and smiled. Luffy clapped, feeling compelled to. I wonder what the tango is, said Luffy to himself. It's a dance where the partners are close to each other and have to feel the movement of each other. It's like a love dance, Robin said appearing next to Luffy with Zoro. That's not too hard, said Luffy. Actually Luffy, it's one of the hardest dances in the world. There are no special steps, it's all about flow of each other's body, said Robin. We should have joined them, said Zoro to Robin. Ahaha, I don't know how to tango Zoro, she smiled, and neither does Keita, does Raid know how to tango? Asked Robin to Luffy. Luffy felt some sort of anger rise in him, was it anger? He didn't know, all he knew was that he was mad because it was Raid dancing with Keita. Apparently, said Luffy looking at the couple out there. Said Robin looking at Keita. She looked a little uneasy and confused at the crowd around them. Why is there a crowd around us Raid? Keita asked looking around. Didn't you hear, it's the tango. People wait all year to see this, said Raid. But I don't know how to dance. Said Keita exasperatedly. Haha, don't worry. Keita felt his arm snake around her waist and she was pulled up against him. Just go with the flow, that's what this dance is all about, said Raid taking her left hand and entwining it with his before holding it out to the side. Her other hand went to his shoulder to steady herself. See, you're getting it already. Okay. Here we go. The two men on the stage started to tap their feet. Uno, dos, tres, cuatro. He said and then the band started behind him. Keita didn't know what to do when she suddenly felt Raid start to push her backwards and then she started to move with him. The steps were complicated as she tried to keep up with him. Keep his pace and I'm all good, I'll be good. Suddenly Raid stopped and pushed Keita back. Whoa, she thought she was going to fall but all she did was lean back with Raid still holding her. He swiftly pulled her back up and they were moving across the floor again when Raid did it a second time. Whoa, am I doing this right? She asked as she was brought back up again looking nervously at her feet. Don't look at your feet and only look at me. And don't worry, you're doing absolutely fine. Keita looked up at him and saw him smile, making her feel a bit more at ease. Okay, pace, she said when Raid let go of her waist and spun her out. She looked at the crowd for a brief moment, seeing Robin, Zoro, and Luffy. Luffy's face looked somewhat anxious. Is Luffy okay? She thought as she was pulled back to Raid. Geez, this dance is full of surprises. Keita said to Raid. He chuckled softly. Hey, remember it's just all about the flow, go with the flow, he said. And with that Keita inhaled and exhaled, and just followed his pace, soon getting the flow after a couple of minutes, though there were still little surprises. Luffy looked at Keita as she was suddenly spun out, Raid still holding onto her other hand. Damn it, he thought. Looks like she is getting the hang of it now, said Robin smiling. Zoro looked at the couples on the floor and then at Luffy. That kid doesn't understand his feelings, does he? Zoro thought. He looked at Robin and she looked at him. Robin, understanding what he was saying to her, smiled and came up with a plan. They watched as Keita was brought up against Raid, him holding her against him while she leaned back and they did a semi-circle with their bodies. Then at the precise moment that Raid pulled Keita out to spin herself, which took a hint from him, Robin grew one of her hands on the ground and pushed Luffy forward towards Keita. Whoa, he yelled as he was suddenly pushed onto the dance floor. He grabbed onto a hand so he wouldn't fall and ended up pulling Keita into his arms. He gained his balance and looked at the sudden position he was in. What? Luffy looked at Robin and Zoro, asking for some help in the situation but they just smiled. Luffy looked at Keita and saw that she was smiling but also saying something. Dance Luffy. She laughed with smile. Luffy understood, he had finally gotten his chance, and he wasn't going to give it away. He didn't know how to dance, but he would try damn hard. He moved backwards, trying to follow the other dancers' steps around him. Raid had spun Kata out when he felt her jerked out of his hand. He looked to who she went to and saw it was Luffy. When did Luffy come onto here? He had been concentrating on Kata so much that he didn't see him. Luffy and Kata stood there motionless for a moment, before he watched as they started to move. Raid watched them for a moment, seeing Luffy trip over his feet sometimes but staying up. Raid looked like an outcast on the dance floor now, seeing as how he was the only one without a partner on there, but he would have one soon. Raid knew now how this was going to play out. Luffy tripped a couple times, trying to keep up with the music and pace of the dancers beside him. Luffy looked at Kata. Don't look at the other people, just do what you think would go with the song. You're the leader, she said smiling. Luffy looked into Kata's eyes noticing that they were changing slightly in color, and gaining confidence in them. He stepped backwards easily and brought his hand out, having Kata quickly spin under it, her dress flowing out making more of an emphasis of their dance. Luffy then paused for a moment, pressing Kata against him and bringing his hand lower so she could lean backwards off his chest. While he did this, Kata's leg went up his right leg. Some people gasped, seeing how quickly the couple had gone from stumbling all over the place to looking like professional dancers. Some dancers on the floor even got off the floor so they could watch. Luffy's hand was slowly going down her side and he leaned forwards also, as in trying to reach her face, but then suddenly brought her back up. Her leg fell from his and they stood face to face, Kata keeping the emotion of the dance in her face but letting out a big smile for a moment just for Luffy to see. Luffy couldn't help but feel enormously pleased with himself. Firstly, he didn't know he could dance, and secondly, he was dancing with Kata. Luffy smiled, obviously not keeping the emotion of the dance as he spun her out of his arms, keeping her hand in his, when suddenly, he felt her ripped out of his hand. What? Kata was spun out, one hand still in Luffy's and the other out on the other side of her when she felt someone grab hold of it and pull her towards them. They were already moving but Kata looked up to the face and chuckled. Hey Raid, she said, remembering him. Hey, you left me out of the picture, he said as they walked while spinning in circles swiftly. I'm sorry, I just got so into the moment with Luffy. She looked to the side and blushed, hoping Raid wouldn't see, and then saw Luffy. He stood there motionless watching them two dance and she felt a slight pang in her chest. Well, I just have to get you back into this moment then, said Raid. Kata looked back at him just in time for him to pick her up by the waist and spin her in the air before bringing her back down and making her dip deeply. Whoa, she said, that was so cool. She said smiling as he brought her back up. Haha, I still got some moves up my sleeve, ya know, he said as they kept moving with some under the arm twists there. Luffy watched as the couple spun and he caught Kata looking at him before she looked back at Raid and she was lifted into the air. He wondered what to do for a moment. I want her back, no, I need her back. Luffy then decided that this was going to be a battle, just a different style of one. He loosened his tie a little as he started to walk towards the couple, watching as Kata was being spun under the arm, which also meant that one hand was free. He caught it making sure that Kata's footing didn't break and then she spun into him. Kata was confused for a moment when she felt two hands holding onto her so she let go of the original, somehow hoping that the new one was Luffy, and she was right. Luffy immediately started to move backwards, going away from Raid who was motionless once again. I knew it was you, Kata said and Luffy looked up at her to see her smiling. Luffy then spun her quickly out, Kata keeping her arms in so they didn't flail anywhere. She then was quickly pulled back in, and instead of being right up against Luffy, she was almost at arm's length with him, but just enough so that their arms were still bent outwards. Luffy then proceeded to bend down, having one leg steady and bent while the other one went behind him. Kata followed his exact same routine, her leg bent while her other one slid slowly behind her. The last couple of dancers were shocked by their performance from looking on that they also exited the floor so they could watch the two dance. And then noticing that there was a battle on the dance floor, they got even more excited. Luffy looked straight at Kata as he then stood back up, bring his leg in hers with him and then moved again, keeping with the music. Damn, that kid knows how to dance, said Zoro watching the two in amazement while Robin only chuckled. That was amazing Luffy, Kata whispered as he spun her out. Well, get ready to see some more amazement, both of them heard Raid say as he took hold of Kata's hand and spun her into him in a way that she ended up having her back pressed up against him and her arms were crossed over her stomach holding onto his hands. Whoa, Kata now felt herself having fun with this. Where was there ever a moment that she had danced like this in her life? She giggled as Raid started to move in a grapevine pattern with her still against him and bending his knees a little as they moved. Kata followed him as well as switching the position her head was facing at ever bend until they stopped. Raid let go of one arm so she could spin out, and she did. But then Kata added some of her own moves. Raid spun her out and facing him, kicked out her leg, then letting it fall and she was brought onto Raid again. Haha, that was fun, she said as they walked forward agilely. Raid smiled as they approached Luffy and he decided to do a little trick. He spun Kata and made her so her back was again to him but he held onto both her arms, as she leaned forward towards Luffy, almost inviting her but not letting her go. Luffy then took this opportunity to gain Kata back and put his hands onto Kata's waist, lifting her up and making Raid let go of her so her arms wouldn't get pulled off. Nice, Kata said as she was lifted into the air and her hands let go of so she put them onto Luffy's shoulders as he brought her back down and they moved again. Luffy then turned her around so that her back was faced towards him and his hands slowly went up her sides as she bent her knees going down. People in the crowd gasped at their emotion that they were portraying. Kata then quickly was brought back up and spun around Luffy, but when she got to the back of him, Raid grasped her hand, trying to get her to him, but this time Luffy didn't let go. The crowd gasped at the battle forces coming together as Luffy turned around and looked at Raid. Taking the steps into her own hands now that both of Kata's hands were occupied, she led the two forward, slowly letting her leg show as she bent one leg, and the other went in front of her. The two boys were at first occupied by staring at each other but soon with Kata as she was moving down. At the same time then, the two brought her up and she went behind them. While Kata did so, she crossed her arms so that the boys would have to move and switch places with each other, which they did. Then she spun around quickly yet swiftly so she faced the other side of the crowd just in time for the music to come to an end. The crowd applauded and cheered loudly at the trio's dance. Kata exhaled a breath that she felt that she was keeping in forever. That was great guys, she said looking at Raid and Luffy as they let go of her hands and she faced them. Hey, it was, said Raid smiling though somewhat annoyed. I didn't even know I could do half those steps, said Luffy puzzled. Well, it's a good thing it came to you right then and there, isn't it? Said Robin as she and Zoro approached them. Actually Zoro knew that Robin was the one helping Luffy all along. He saw when they were dancing that there were some hands that were sprouting from the floor pushing Luffy's feet right and left. Though Zoro didn't know how Luffy knew all the upper body moves like gliding Kata out and catching her. Ah, Kata-chan, you were so good, I never knew you could dance, said Sanji coming up to them. Kata, you, Raid and Luffy stole the spotlight, said Nami. Ah, I'm sorry Nami, said Kata feeling embarrassed now. No, it's a good thing. Sanji and I had to get off the dance floor to see you guys, it was amazing, she said giggling. Thanks, her cheeks lit up. I think I'm going to get a drink, I'll be right back, said Kata as she started to go into the crowd. Wait Kata, Kata heard Sanji say. Sanji turned to Nami and asked, would you like a drink Nami Swan? He asked. She nodded her head thankfully. Yes, she said smiling and Sanji fluttered after Kata and the both of them went to get drinks. Raid, how did you know to dance the tango? Nami asked him. I've lived here for my life. And the tango is done every year so I learned it from watching people on the dance floor, he said smiling at Nami. Ooh, you were a very good dancer, she complimented. Thank you, he said. Kata and Sanji were getting their drinks, when they saw an exotic looking one. Whoa, that drink's on fire, said Kata looking at it amazed. Ah, that's the flaming cocktail, want to try some? Said Sanji reaching over to it and grabbing one for himself and Kata. What about Nami? She asked as he handed her the glass cup. She was afraid that she would catch herself on fire so she held it a bit away from herself. I'll bring her here when I finish this one, it's not good to go through a dense crowd with fire, said Sanji slightly laughing. Oh yay, haha. So, how exactly do you drink this? She asked Sanji. Well, there are two ways. One is that you take a coaster or a damp napkin and put it on top of it, taking away the oxygen and having the fire extinguish. Or you can do the simple thing and wait. So the only reason the flame is there is for the coolness of it, said Kata getting entranced by the flame. Sanji laughed at her expression. Haha yay. Hey Kata, your eyes turned green, said Sanji looking at her as his fire started to die out. Really? Just now, she said looking up at Sanji and then, wanting to see how she looked like, looking at the glass of the cocktail. Oh, you're right. No, it wasn't just now, probably when you were dancing. Did you ever think that it had something to do with your moods? He asked her, his flame now completely out but Sanji was waiting for the brim to cool down. I've only subtly thought about it but I guess so, but not when I'm angry, said Kata. Yay, and your eyes were an icy blue when you got mad at the game 2 days ago. Maybe it doesn't have to do with moods, something else then. Sanji was now puzzled, wanting to figure out this mystery as he started to drink from his now cool glass. "It's all just a mystery to me, I still don't know the full extent of this power," she said as she just realized that she could cool down the glass herself, and she did so. Sanji, after taking his first sip, started to feel a bit nauseous and put his drink back onto the table. "Sanji, you okay?" asked Keita, putting her drink down. "Yay, I think it's just the dancing, and this type of cocktail doesn't go well with me," he said, feeling slight pain from his stomach. "I'll be right back, tell Nami Swan I'll get her drink soon," said Sanji as he wobbled off into the crowd towards the bathroom. Keita looked after him until he was gone and then sighed, finally taking a sip of her cocktail, which tasted a bit weird, but out of curiosity she took another sip. She was about to swallow her last sip when she felt a tap on her shoulder. She turned around to see Raid smiling at her. "Lonely much?" he said, smiling at her. "A bit, I was going to go to Nami, but I guess I just stayed here. I wonder if Sanji is with her now," she wondered. "I saw him, he just came out of the bathroom and went to a somewhat annoyed Nami." Keita laughed. "Hey, do you want to take a small walk for some fresh air?" Raid asked. Keita looked at him quizzically. "Are we allowed to leave?" she asked him. Raid laughed. "Of course we are. They just close the doors in the front to keep the cold out. But they always have a place in the back where there's a trail in tall, nicely kept ice bushes. It's kind of like a maze made of grass and snow." "Ooh, sounds fun, but we can find our way back, right?" she asked. "Definitely, there are lights along the side so we won't get lost," he said. "Okay, let's go," she said as she followed Raid out the back where some other couples were going. Chapter 27, Burn Like a Rose. Burn like a rose. Keita followed Raid to the back where there were two large glass doors. She watched as the couples around her put on light jackets with their partner helping them. "Yay, highlights of having warmth is a color," she laughed in her head while a smile came out on her face. Raid looked at her and was about to ask if she needed a coat but stopped himself, realizing the obvious. "Haha, I felt that coming, Raid," said Keita, laughing. "Damn it," he said, smiling. "Well, that beats me at least looking for a coat, haha," he said as he went to the door, his hand on the knob, ready. Keita smiled. "Yep," she said as Raid quickly opened the door and they swiftly went out. "I could feel the stares of the people as we left, wondering why I wasn't wearing a coat," said Keita, smiling as she walked through the cleared path of snow. "Well, that makes me look somewhat like a douche," said Raid, brushing the back of his hair. "Psht, you're not a douche," said Keita. She then looked around. All they had been doing was walking straight and didn't get far, but she took in the sights around her. In front of her was a narrow path. Possibly only 4 people side by side would be able to fit through easily. The sides looked like glistening walls. The snow on the square-cut bushes and the ground were littered with prints from past people. "This looks like an enchanted snow forest," said Keita wondrously as she kept walking onward with Raid. "I heard they were going with that sort of theme back here. I'm glad it worked," he responded. "Hey, well, if there were fairies it would have been perfect." Keita looked into the air as if some would appear but only saw the glistening stars, which made her eyes dazzle. "They're so beautiful," said Keita softly. Raid looked up to see the breathtaking stars for himself and sighed. They were indeed beautiful, each as if its own, separate, crystal. Raid looked forward again, feeling some tension in his hands before Keita ran into a bush because she wasn't looking in front of her. "Whoa there," said Raid, putting his hands gently onto Keita's shoulders and pulling her away from the bush, noting that they were warm. "Oh haha, thanks Raid," she said as she turned around quickly, only to be caught extremely close to Raid's face. "Oh," she stood there for a moment, looking at Raid with Raid looking back. Their breaths tingled on each other's skin as they looked at one another. Raid leaned a little bit closer, tilting his head as Keita stayed in the same spot, caught in the moment. Raid stopped, still very close to her face, and looked straight into her eyes. "Your eyes are very beautiful," he said before pulling himself back and turning to face the ice-covered bush behind him. Keita then realized what happened and her face began to heat up so fast she felt like she was standing next to a volcano. "Oh, haha, aha," she laughed somewhat awkwardly. "Thank you," she tried to cool herself down. "Shoot, what was that?" Raid pulled on his collar of his shirt, feeling like the air had gotten hotter. "God damn it, what was I thinking? I can't change myself now. No, no, no. Damn it." He tried to calm himself, wondering if he was really making the right decision before he heard Keita shuffling behind him. "Here," he said, turning around. "Let's go this way." Raid pointed to a turn ahead. "I heard there's a secret fountain around there." Keita's sense of adventure stirred up in her and she jumped a little before realizing she was wearing heels and Raid had to hold her shoulders to keep her from falling. "Ah, these shoes are so hard to walk in. I don't understand how women do it." Kata said as she and Raid started to walk forward. I don't either, said Raid. Haha, I dare you one day walk around in heels. Never, said Raid as they rounded the corner laughing, going into another aisle. Ah, where is it? Kata said pouting. Hold on, we gotta hear it, listen. They both stood silent for a moment, straining their ears for the sound of water before Kata heard it. Over there, she cried as she started to half run, half limp towards the sound. As she did, Raid followed, though not as fast. His palms started to sweat as he wiped them on his jacket. This is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, he thought just as he was about to stop Kata from taking the next turn, but he was too late. Oh, Kata said aloud as she faced the large fountain. Isn't it beautiful, Raid? She asked as he approached her from behind. He looked at the fountain smiling sadly. The designs on it were beautiful, its marble reflecting the snow, flowers and berries carved into it, 3 stories high, and the top rained down the water so that it fell to the bottom where it went under and back up again. It is, he replied. Kata drew close to the fountain and stared, lost in the water. She stared at her reflection that was shown perfectly on the water. It was ice cold, especially to her warm skin, but she still loved it, it had a refreshing feel. She looked into her reflection again and then saw Raid standing behind her looking down to the ground. She turned around smiling. Raid feel the wah, she slowly faded out her words when she saw droplets fall from his face to the ground. Raid, are you okay? She asked walking towards him with her hand stretching out to reach him. Stay away, he said so harshly that Kata froze, her eyes were wide with fright from the coldness of those words. Raid, are you, she tried to take a step but even before she lifted her foot fully off the ground he yelled at her. No, stop, just stay there, near the fountain. Stay, there. Kata heard the words break and she could tell that Raid was sobbing. He was bent, leaning forward before she saw his hand reach into his pocket and him take something glinting against the ground out. Raid, what is, she cut herself off as she saw it was a long knife, sharp and thin. I'm sorry Kata, I'm sorry, said Raid, still crying, as he got up and held the knife in front of him. He wanted to control himself but he couldn't, he didn't want to do this, he was just so confused now. Shit, Kata, He moved a couple steps towards her as she stayed in place, her eyes wildly looking between Raid and the knife. Raid's hands shook so much that the knife ended up falling out of his hands and once it hit the ground, Raid's knees followed. Oh God, I'm sorry Kata, I'm so sorry, tears streamed down his face and Kata knew that it was okay. She got onto her knees next to him and hugged him. Raid, she didn't really know what to say, was he going to stab her? Why would he stab her, unless there was someone behind her? Kata turned her head as Raid started to gather himself together, but only the fountain was behind Kata. Then why did he try to? Raid pulled himself out of Kata's embrace and wiped his tears before looking at Kata. Please forgive me, he said as he put his palms on the floor. Wait, Raid, tell me, what is going on? She said pulling him back up. Raid looked down, his palms rubbing his knees before he exhaled. I was going to kill you, but I couldn't do it, he said. Kata froze. Kill? Why would he? Wait. Did you want to kill me? Asked Kata. Raid looked up and shook his head. No, well at first yes, but at the same time no, wait, he just told me and I got my head caught up in it and I did but then didn't and I thought that I could stop but it all came back in. Raid, Kata yelled. Raid looked up to Kata's stern yet worried face. Who is he? Kata asked. Raid looked to the side, in his head the name and title for him echoed and he utterly despised it. Why? Your father, Furo. Kata's breath stuck in her throat. Fa, she couldn't even say it, it was just too horrible to think that man was one half of her. But, why was he coming this far now, just to kill her? He sold her in the first place so he shouldn't care, but maybe he didn't think that she was going to survive. Oh my God, he thought I was going to die, or maybe never show my face, but because I'm with Luffy and them. Luffy. Raid watched Kata as she seemed distant but then whispered something. Luffy, at first it came out as a whisper but then she said it aloud and jumped up, Luffy. She yelled, oh my God, damn it. All the worst possible ideas that could have happened smashed into Kata's head and she caught herself on the side of the fountain. Kata, yelled Raid as he got up and helped her. She looked at Raid, terrified. Kata. Another voice approached and both Raid and Kata turned their heads towards the oncoming person. He was wearing a white tuxedo and had blonde hair one side covering his left eye. Sanji, said Kata as she let go of Raid's hold and started to walk towards him, her mind in complete confusion and disarray but glad to see a crewmate to help her, Sanji. Raid looked at her as she walked towards him but then realized something was not right. No, wait. Sanji saw Raid move and leapt towards Keita, taking out the dagger from behind him and about to stab her. Keita's eyes widened as she saw everything slow down. She couldn't even move her body fast enough as the knife sailed down towards her. But then something obstructed her vision, something with broad shoulders in another tuxedo. His hair was red, and his arms stretched out, and she watched as the knife went down and into his chest rather than hers. It was at that exact moment that time sped up and suddenly she fell to the ground and rolled to the side. The red-haired man fell into where she had been and stayed there, his body facing up, and Sanji was still there, his hand on the dagger as it was still in the redhead's chest. Raid! Keita screamed and got up onto her knees before her shoulders were roughly seized and her hands were clasped behind her back. She turned her head wanting her power to start, but it all died out. The cold, hard, and heavy clasps were doing something to her power that she didn't know of yet, but her mind wasn't focused on that anymore. Raid! Raid! She yelled. Raid was panting hard, the knife still in him as blood covered his tuxedo in the snow, turning it blood red. Sanji! She screamed, tears streaming out, take the knife out of him. He wasn't doing anything bad. Exactly. Sanji said harshly. What? Keita said as she looked at Sanji as he turned her head slowly towards his. No. No. She screamed as she tried to move away from him, but the person holding her from behind shook her hard by her hair and kept her in place. The Sanji she knew wasn't this one was harsh, cold, and… Hello my dear, he said as he took off the wig and fake eyebrow, standing up but still leaving the knife in Raid. Yes, in fact the one staring straight down at Keita was Furo, her father. How's life? Is it all good? He smiled that cold-hearted smile, the one where the only feeling in it was murder. Keita whimpered as she tried to fall back and hide. But she couldn't do anything, no power, no voice, no one to help her. The thought alone made her eyes look straight into the depths of hell's eyes. Why are you here? She tried to yell but the last few words cracked. Why? He said, his voice overpowering hers. I came to be rid of you obviously, what else? This little ass, he looked down at Raid and lightly kicked the knife in his chest, causing him to yell in pain, was too scared to, as shown from the performance before, too faltered by, fruitful, feelings. Furo bent down to Raid and placed his hand on the knife. Keita watched as his grasp tightened around it and he moved it slightly around in a circle. St. Street op. Raid screamed in agony as the knife moved, he felt like his entire body was being ripped to shreds little by little. The pain, the agony, he couldn't take it. Slow and painful, was this how it was like with those feelings? Said Furo, his eyes wide with sadistic pleasure. Father please stop, yelled Keita in horror as she watched Raid scream. Furo looked up and stared at Keita, his smile even worse than the last. Oh, stop, why? He seems to like it, don't you, Raid? Furo said as he widened the circle. Stop it, Raid. The snow around him was now a puddle of his own blood as he gasped for air. Furo's white pants and tuxedo were being stained by Raid's blood. He stopped and got up, leaving the knife in place knowing that Raid would be too helpless to take it out by himself. Don't worry Keita, my dear, he said coming up extremely close to her face. Yours only starts like that, he smiled, showing all his teeth. Keita shivered as she felt not only the cold around her affect her, but the fear of her father, and the fear of never seeing Raid breathe again. She didn't move as a gag was put around her mouth and she was picked up and thrown over someone's shoulder. Hey, she heard the man say, I can't wait to fuck your shit up. The voice was familiar and she tried to look at the person but couldn't with her being over his shoulder. Suddenly someone appeared where she could see, and saw Jin. She then looked the other way and saw Jin. What? She looked back and saw one smiling, and then the other also smiled. Keita didn't understand what was going on and instead looked back at Raid, tears overflowing in her eyes as she was brought farther away from him. She wanted to say anything, something, but nothing came out. The last thing she saw was Raid turn his head towards her and try to mouth something, but the blood coming out of his mouth made it hard to recognize and before she could try to think of it, she was taken behind a bush and Raid was gone from her sight. Raid heard a cloudy voice that sounded like Jin as he heard muffled footsteps. His vision was blurred, his hearing was fading and his breaths were becoming slower and longer. He didn't want to have this on his back if he left this world, he didn't want to have the look of pain and suffering on Keita's face, he didn't want that, no. He moved his head with overwhelming effort to look in Keita's direction and lightly searched until gaining her eyes. No words could come out of his mouth, so he just shaped them. I'm sorry, I love you. He watched her blur out of focus before she disappeared behind a large bush. Raid turned his face back up towards the cold night sky and stared at the stars, wondering if there was ever a place for him there and if they would even let him there. Chapter 28, Love Lost. Love lost. Where the hell is Sanji? He's taking his damn tea. Right here, he said, coming up behind Nami and everyone seated around her. She grabbed the drink out of Sanji's hand. Geez Sanji, what took you so long? Asked Nami, glaring, as she held the drink elegantly. Sorry, I just had to take a quick bathroom break Nami Swan, he said, his foolish smile ever present. Zoro, Robin, and Luffy had been ignoring the duo before them in favor of the sights of the dance. Completely out of sync with reality, they were slowly drawn back into the conversation around them. Hey Sanji, where's Kata? Asked Luffy. Ah, she went out with Raid, Sanji answered. Out, you can go outside here. Asked Robin. Yay, over there, you see those doors? Sanji pointed to a set of ornate doors and everyone turned to look in that direction with a mild feeling of surprise. Oh, I didn't know that, said Robin. Ah, this place it's so crowded. Muttered Zoro, trying to fix his hair. Watching his attempts, and failures, Robin laughed and reached over to fix it for him. Here, let's go to the side and get some air, said Robin. When Zoro nodded, Robin turned to the others at the table. We'll see you guys later, she waved and the two disappeared into the crowd. An awkward tension between the three left behind began to grow. That is until Sanji, always the charmer, brought his arm around Nami and slipped his hand over her own that held the drink. Sanji? Nami asked him, somewhat confused. Sanji took the drink from her hand and placed it on a passing waiter's tray. Would you like to dance? He asked. Nami's cheeks heated up, not because he was asking her so gentlemanlike, but because Luffy was there. Just gawking at them. No, I'm gonna take a quick bathroom break. Nami stuttered. Nami Swan, said Sanji, depression instantly rising at the thought of moments without his dear ginger goddess. Don't worry, I'll be back soon, she called as she was swallowed by the crowd of dancers. Sanji watched her leave. He didn't know what to do now. He glanced down at Luffy, who was looking around the room with a confused expression. Everyone is dancing, with a partner. What did I feel with Kata? Do I like her? But, Raid, wait no. Luffy grabbed the front of his hair tightly before exhaling and running his hand through the dark locks. Sanji, maybe he can help me, he's always wanting women. Sanji looked at Luffy with an eyebrow raised, curious with the tone of his captain's voice. Yes, how do you know if you like a girl? Luffy asked. The question hit Sanji like a bullet. Ha 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 ha. He started to laugh and had to hold his stomach in his hilarity. Is it funny? Huffed Luffy, annoyed. No, Sanji waved it off. Do you like Kata? He asked. Luffy's immediate red face was answer enough and Sanji began to laugh some more. Sanji, Luffy whined. I don't know. That's why I'm asking you. Okay, Sanji put on of his hands on Luffy's shoulder and stood straight. You can only figure that out by yourself, Luffy. I can't answer it for you. Luffy's eyebrow went up. Wait, no, Sanji, you're not helping. Sanji suddenly brought Luffy towards him and spoke, his mouth next to his captain's ear. Don't Luffy, she is not a good person. Luffy's eyes widened. You don't like her, repeated Sanji before he let go of Luffy's shoulder and walked past him. Luffy was stunned. What was that? Was that right? Is Sanji telling the truth? Luffy didn't know what to think, when Sanji had said, you don't like her. The cook had said it in such a voice that Luffy felt almost obligated not to like her. Luffy turned around to find Sanji but he was gone, and there was no one he recognized that was around him. What do I do? Wondered Luffy. He was confused and really just wanted to get out of the crowd now. Luffy tried to move forward but a lot of people kept bumping into him. It wasn't until 5 minutes of mindless searching that he found himself on a staircase where the promising smell of meat from the upper floor lured him. XXXXXXXXXXX. Zoro was leaning against a wall, next to a table already littered with drinks. Robin approached, handing him a drink. Thanks, said Zoro, taking the drink and downing it. Don't like tight spaces. Robin teased with a smirk. Damn, that was hot. No, scowled Zoro, blushing slightly. He put the glass onto the emptiest part of the table closest to him. He watched Robin's face as he brought one arm around her and pulled her close, their noses almost touching. In fact, I love tight spaces, he growled as his eyes wandered her face. Especially with you. Just how tight? She asked jokingly as she allowed herself to brush her lips over his. Zoro's other arm circled her waist as he pulled her even closer. Their entire bodies touching, eyes and mouth lingering, the moment was so perfect until... Someone help! Came a yell from nearby. Zoro and Robin immediately looked towards where the voice originated from. It was a woman, who looked like she had just come from outside. Her voice had only been loud enough to reach their ears, the people at the table and door that lead to the outside. The man serving at the table went up to her. "What's wrong, miss?" he asked, worried, as Zoro, Robin, and the people closed in around her. "I was outside with Suna," she began as a man entered through the door. It happened to be the one she was speaking of. "I couldn't find it," he said breathlessly, his voice shaking from the cold. "What couldn't you find?" asked another woman. "There was a shriek, a loud scream that came out of nowhere while my husband and I were outside." Robin's eyes widened. "Keita." Zoro looked at her in puzzlement before realizing what her statement meant. "Did you see anyone else out there?" asked Robin. "No. I think we were the only ones that went out because it's starting to get a bit windy out," the woman answered. Zoro went to crack the door open, causing the light wind to push his hair back. "Where did the voice come from?" he asked. The man named Suna came up next to him, opening the door a bit wider and pointed. "Over there. I went to go look, but I couldn't find anything." "Robin," Zoro called. "Wait." Robin closed her eyes and crossed her arms. She bloomed eyes on the ceiling of the room and looked for everyone. Once she found them, she bloomed her hands out and tapped them on the shoulder, scaring Usopp, before he and the rest of the crew, including Nami walking in the crowd and Luffy from the second floor, came down to meet her and Zoro. The only person she didn't get was Sanji, but she would have to deal with it later. "Robin, what's going on?" asked Nami as came up to her with Luffy, but Robin just waved them outside to join herself and Zoro. "Sir," Robin turned to table's server. "We'll find out what it is, so do not worry. After all, we wouldn't like to disturb the party," said Robin. The man was stood dazzled by Robin's reassuring smile before nodding. "Oh okay," he said, his own face turning upwards into a smile. Robin walked past the small, worried crowd and out the door, closing them behind her. As she made her way to where her crewmates has gathered, Nami made her unhappiness with the situation well known. "Robin, it's freezing," whined Nami as she shivered from a light breeze. Robin felt a jacket drop onto her shoulders and looked at Zoro, who was now loosening his tie. "Here Nami," offered Luffy as he handed her his coat, not really feeling that cold. "Ah." Nami grabbed the coat and pulled it tight around her. It wasn't as warm as she wanted, but it was better than nothing. "What happened?" "Someone heard a scream out here and both Zoro and I saw Raid and Keita leave in this direction 10 minutes ago," said Robin. "And I didn't see either of them come back inside while I was looking for you guys." Usopp's eyes widened. "So you're saying that the scream came from them?" he asked, somewhat horrified. "Yay, but they said it was only a scream, so it might have been one. They also didn't hear if it was a girl or a guy either," said Robin. "We have to find them, now," said Luffy, seriousness that he usually lacked now lacing his voice. "Okay. The best strategy is to separate. This looks like a maze, so let's each go with 2 people just to be safe. I'll go with Chopper, Robin with Zoro, Frankie with Usopp and Luffy with Sanji." "Wait. Where's Sanji?" asked Nami. "I couldn't find him and stopped searching in the interest of time," replied Robin, the cold air forming in front of her mouth. "Okay, so the group of 3 will be Frankie, Usopp and Luffy." "Got it. And when we find something, yell, and just keep on yelling until we find you." Everyone nodded. "Let's go," said Luffy as he bounded onto the trail in front of him and everyone proceeded with theirs, jogging as to not slip on the slushy snow and ice. XXXXXXXX. "Damn it. I really hope it wasn't Raid or Keita. Maybe it was just some overly excited couple," said Usopp. "That would be weird, annoying, and funny, all at the same time," said Frankie turning into a dead end. "Who the hell came up with this maze? It's a freckin' party. No one wants to get lost." The 3 backtracked their course and took a sudden right that led to a small, open area with 2 other open paths on opposing sides. Again, Usopp whined. "We just barely split up a moment ago." He looked between the opposing trails, wondering what to do. "I'll take this path," said Luffy heading to the one on the left. "You guys take the other one. Don't forget what Nami said, if you end up finding them." Usopp and Frankie watched as Luffy disappeared from their view. They could feel the anguish coming from Luffy, reflecting their own feelings of anger and apprehension about the entire situation. "Come on Usopp, we have to find them no matter what," said Frankie as he entered their path, the long nose close behind. XXXXXXX. "Fuck, where are we?" asked Zoro, once again hitting a dead end with no other choice than returning the way they came in. "Zoro, perhaps it's better for me to lead," said Robin as she turned around. "Shit," said Zoro, pissed. He didn't like the fact that it was screaming that was leading them to Keita and or Raid. Why did this have to happen? He mumbled, following Robin down the narrow path. There is no explanation yet, but if it's Kate or Raid, we'll see what happened. Hopefully the scene won't explain it for us, said Robin, her nerves growing with every step. XXXXXX. This path seems to go on forever, said Nami, slightly annoyed and scared. I hope not, said Chopper, next to her in his walk point. Have you caught onto anything yet? No, it's getting mixed up with the other people's scents who were here, but... Chopper jogged further ahead before catching onto something and startled into a run. Blood. Nami's eyes widened as Chopper ran ahead of her. Needing to know what was wrong, she followed as quick as she could, though careful not slip on the ice. Chopper turned a sharp right. She heard him skid on the ice and yell. Chopper. Nami yelled as she heard a thud and jogged faster, holding up her dress. Finally, she turned the corner and her sight fell onto a gruesome visage. Raid. She yelled as she jogged over to the body and slid down onto the ground next to him, not caring whether the blood got onto her dress. But the very sight of his current state was enough to make her sick, almost to the point of throwing up at a single glance. Her hand was over her mouth as tears poured from her eyes. Chopper was on the other side of him in his brain point, his body level with Raid. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. Raid, he said, tears coming to his eyes. Chopper started tearing open his backpack to find something to stop the bleeding. Stay with us, stay with us. He yelled as he pulled out some gauze and tried to pad it over the large hole. Nami was in shock, not knowing what to do as his glazed over eyes met with Chopper's and then hers. She took his hand in hers and tightened her grasp, hoping for him to return the gesture, but she only got a subtle squeeze back. A gleam came in the corner of her eyes and then she saw the knife covered in blood next to Raid's leg and Chopper's side. Raid, she whimpered. Nami. Chopper got her attention and she just looked at him. I need you to yell. To bring everyone here, remember. They stared at each other for a moment, eyes welling up, but a light grunt from Raid brought them back to the present and Nami let go his hand. Stay with us, all right. I'm going to go get the others, she said as she got up and went out to the other side of an ornated fountain that she hadn't noticed earlier. It would have been wonderful if it weren't for all the blood. She took in a deep breath, hoping to get everyone's attention without cracking her voice. Luffy, Robin, Frankie, Zoro, Usopp. XXXXXXX. Luffy heard Nami's yells and immediately started to run in the direction of her voice. Whenever coming to a dead end, he just jumping over the obtruding bushes with his power. XXXXXX. Frankie, this way, yelled Usopp as they heard the urgency in Nami's voice. The two ran towards her, careful not to fall. XXXXXX. Robin started to jog towards Nami's voice, running faster and using her powers to make sure Zoro didn't turn the wrong direction. XXXXXXX. Nami yelled 4 more times before Luffy showed up, followed by Robin, Zoro, Usopp, and Frankie. Robin and Zoro gasped seeing Raid on the ground in front of them. Attention caught, Luffy looked towards them and then saw him. Usopp and Frankie couldn't even believe their eyes and seemed to freeze in place. What happened? Asked Usopp shakily. Robin rushed over to Chopper's side to help him, her eyes widening as she realized how big the wound in his stomach was. Slowly, Luffy walked to Raid, falling to his knees on the other side of him. Everyone else gathered around him and Nami T took his hand once again. Raid, said Luffy, freaking out. Who did this to you? He almost yelled, feeling like he was about to go hysterical. Oh god, so much blood, said Usopp, shaking. Raid's slow breathing and drooping eyes met with everyone's in the crew before landing on Luffy's. I'm sorry, he whispered. What did he say? Demanded Zoro, caught off guard by the confession. Sorry, repeated Raid, breathing in rasps. Take it easy, Raid, I'm going to try to patch you together, cried Chopper, tears running down his cheeks. Raid slightly shook his head, wanting to stop Chopper. After seeing Raid's wound, everyone knew there was nothing they could do. Usopp wanted to vomit from its gruesomeness but held it back. Robin put her hand on Chopper's arm. He looked up at her, sniffling before reading in her eyes the uselessness of the act and put his arms down. Silence came over everyone before Nami broke it. What are you sorry for? She asked. The crew watched as Raid gathered the last of his energy, with blood coming to his mouth. Kata, I'm sorry. I tried, kill her. Luffy's eyes flashed right onto the borderline of hysteria. He gripped the ice under him to keep sane. Father. Couldn't do it. Raid inhaled shakily and tried to exhale more words but coughed out blood instead. Robin grew some arms to support under his neck and head so that the blood wouldn't run up into his mouth. He gave a sort of gratifying look at Robin before continuing on. I loved. Kata, couldn't do it. Zoro's eyes widened. He had known that Raid had liked her, but not that it had come to love. Sanji, father came. Jin took Keita. He coughed up more blood, adding it to his suit as he squeezed his eyes in pain. To everyone. I'm sorry for what I put you through. He shook a little more violently before looking to Luffy. Luffy. Raid seemed to be hanging to life by a thread. Tears came to Raid's eyes, as well as the rest of the crew, though there were mixed feelings about it. I'm sorry for putting you through the pain of me being with Keita. Pain shot up through his abdomen and lungs as Raid yelled, slightly squeezing Nami's hand. Chopper had the intense instinct to help him once again, but Robin squeezed his shoulder. Raid's eyes met with Nami's as his hands became loose. Nami understood that he wanted to be let go of, and she did. His hand almost fell to the ice, but Raid, using all his strength, brought it as close to Luffy as he could in a gesture for them to grasp hands. Luffy looked at his hand for a moment before grasping it. I'm sorry for everything. Tears came to Raid's eyes as Luffy stared into his. Please take good care of Keita, he said, tightening his hand around Luffy's. His eyes bore into Luffy's, tears falling onto the snow before letting his hand go and slowly let himself fall into the deep darkness that had been pulling him down. But right before it did, he felt his hand catch, and a strong grasp on it once again. Raid forced his eyes to open and lungs to breath just a little while longer and listened to what Luffy had to say. Raid, it's alright. We will get back at her father for this, we will get Keita back, and I will take good care of her. Tears finally started to fall from Luffy's eyes, realizing that he was about to lose a very brave friend. We will not go down with a fight, just like you, we aren't easy to defeat either. Die knowing that we will get Keita back and that it will go back to sailing the seas. Don't die with any shame or regret in your heart. Raid looked at Luffy, his eyes widening. Frankie and Usopp cried quietly along with the rest of the crew, though Zoro barely showed much emotion besides despair. Raid, understanding what Luffy was saying, smiled as Luffy's tears fell onto his cheeks. For one last time, he tightened his hand around Luffy's. Thank you, he said, tears trailing down his cheeks as he closed his eyes. Luffy felt as Raid's hand began to go limp in his and his head lolled slightly downward. Finally, his hand went completely and Luffy held onto it for a bit longer before putting it on the ground beside him. Robin set his head and neck gently back onto the ground. Chopper let out a wail, clutching at Raid's suit with one paw while crying into Robin. Robin's cheeks had streams of tears while Nami's, Usopp's, and Frankie's came out unwillingly. Zoro looked like he was silently crying, cursing whoever had done this to a good man. Luffy, this being only the third time in his life such an event had happened, cried and let the tears gush out over his now lost friend, Raid. Disclaimer: this story do not belong to me. The author is poisoned love by Pyroteching 1 inch. The end.